White. Wide open, Torrence! Oh, baby! Touchdown! How do you leave the best receiver in the NAIA that wide open?
You show, and that's what we do! Cat!
You're proud of me?
And it's caught! Oh my goodness! Troy Torrence comes down with it!
Welcome all to Bankroll Blitz. Week 4 is here. Thank you for watching Pub Sports Radio. And Troy, we had the bounce back week that we so desperately needed. It's not a good thing to be in a spot in week 3 of the season where you desperately need a huge week, but we delivered. We delivered 18-8 combined plus 9.31 units, and you led the way 11-5 plus 5.77 units. I went 7-3 plus 3.54 units. We're back where we want to be, where we need to be, and I feel very good about moving forward. And I seeing some of the mistakes that I've made throughout the season so far, I really believe that we're on the right track, and we're going to keep cashing that week 2 rough spot was just sort of a blip on the radar. How are you feeling, my man?
I'm feeling great. It was a huge bounce back week. We had closing line value on pretty much every damn play, except for the Bucs game. That late move back to the Eagles, like I said on Twitter, it really put the fear of God in me. I knew what the future was before it happened. I asked my wife, I was like, babe, should I buy out of this, take the Eagles, maybe tease them with something, maybe just take them on the 6? I didn't like it. And sure enough, that line moved back and invalidated my favorite trend, and the Bucs got busted. Commanders got punched in the chops. But outside of that, man, it went really well. What more can you ask for? Huge week. Let's put it behind us now. Mm-hmm. Win or lose, you got to put it behind you. It's behind us now. New opportunities on the horizon. Ready to get to it, man.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this opportunity. We've been in the war room capping nonstop basically since the games ended.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I switched it up, too, this week. I changed the process for myself. Instead of focusing on updating my rankings where I'm not as much, hands-on as like real numerical work that I'm doing. Instead of doing that, I just rewatched. I watched every single game in the NFL before we're going on here. So I'm feeling better than ever, man.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you guys all for joining us. We got Al Cervic in the house, Jedi for Life, Jay Smooth, Nasty Nate, Spenny Penny Palms, Terry Walker, Danny Lopez, Gerald Jones, Birdie in the house. It is great to see all of you guys. Let's do a quick review of last week and then get right to work. I went 7-3 plus 3.54 units, and I'm not in the black. I'm 28-25, hitting at 52.8%, but my average line is minus 111. So I'm down 0.19 units with an ROI of 0.36%. And, it's not where I want to be, but I know profit is right around the corner.
You know where we're going. Jimmy.
I do. I really do. Tennessee, Cleveland, as the week went on, I gave it out as my best bet on the Sunday NFL Pub Hub. I gave it out as the birthday pick, even though it had dropped to 38. And I want to go back to more Cleveland Brown unders. Though there were 2 unders that I came so close to betting, I was like, you know what? Just talk it out. On Tuesdays, we're going to miss some of these market moves. There's only one bet I've made, and that was the Buffalo Bills today at minus 2.5 at minus 120. I just got scared that the 2.5s wouldn't be around anymore, and I bet them. That's the only spot I've actually bet. The Chargers was a casher for me. The Commanders was horrific. The Colts was a casher. The Chiefs first half minus 7. We scripted that game for everybody. I should have made more money on. I should have had the first half team total over as well, but is what it is. Dallas, Arizona under 44 was a push. Pittsburgh, Vegas under 43 at minus 110, a casher. Tampa Bay plus 5.5 was a loss. Falcons plus 3.5 was a loss. And then I cashed on the Indy, Baltimore under 43.5 and the New Orleans, Green Bay Packers under 41.5. 7-3 with a push plus 3.54 units. Troy, you had a monster week, 11-5 plus 5.77 units to be healthy in the black with an ROI just under 10% on the season. 49ers first half team total over 13.5, easy casher. Patriots money line and -2.5 cash. And then the triple up on the Commanders. As much as the triple up hurt on the Commanders, you doubled up on the Chargers and Patriots, and that more than covered all of that. Commanders +6 was a loss. Commanders +6.5 was a loss. Commanders money line was a loss. Chargers money line was a casher. Chargers +1 was a casher. Colts +8 cash. Texans +8.5 cash. Las Vegas, Pittsburgh under 43.5. We were both on that together. Cash. Jalen Warren over 16.5 receiving yards. Cash. He went up for 23. Then the Bucks money line and the Bucks +5 was a loss. You cashed Tampa Bay, Philadelphia under 44.5, and Matt Stafford over 252.5 passing yards to have an 11-5 week +5.77 units. Thank you guys all for joining us. Let's get after it right now. Without any more talking, let's get right into the capping. We start with the Thursday nighter, September 28th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. The Detroit Lions at Green Bay Packers. We're at Lambeau Field. Lions have opened up 2-1, 1-0 on the road, while the Packers are 2-1, 1-0 at home. 61 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 3 miles per hour. Looks like really no weather issues on any game, even the UK game, where we're used to having weather issues. Let's take a look at the line history here for Lions Packers to get started. We are sitting here with the Packers at +1, and this has been an interesting spot. So this opened up at +2. That +2 got up to -118 of juice last night, and then moved to 1 today. So a legit move to the Packers, but that +1 right now is at +102. So maybe we're better off just looking at the money line to get a better idea of what's happened here with this line. So why don't we move over to the money line right now and take a look there, and then we'll move into the totals here. And for this money line, get over to Pinnacle. We're sitting with the Lions at -122 right now. They opened up at -131. They opened up at -131, and within 39 minutes, there was a 14-cent move to the Packers. Since then, it stayed, we've had a slight move back to Detroit. Now, we've had a move back to Detroit in the last 3 hours. There was -113 at 5:43 p.m. It's now -122. Overall, though, an 8 or 9 cent move towards the Packers on the money line. From a total perspective, we are sitting here with a 46. That opened up at 45, so we have a 1-point move towards the over. Go over to the cash flow for this one. We have 46% of the tickets and 50% of the cash on the Packers. That makes sense. The market's not moving very much on it. And then from a total side of things, you have 54% of tickets and 77% of cash on the under, and yet we've gone up a point. So the Lions come in off an impressive 26 victory at home over Atlanta. Jared Goff finished 22 of 33 for 243 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't seem to be too affected by the turf toe that he is dealing with. He's managing it fine. He caught 9 balls for 102 yards. And how about 2023 second-round pick out of Iowa, tight end Sam Laporta? He looked excellent. I mean, he looked so good. Third career game. He catches 8 passes for 84 yards in his first career TD. 18 catches Laporta has. That's the most by an NFL tight end through 3 games. The previous record, 17 by Keith Jackson and 88 for the Eagles. Khalif Raymond caught 4 passes for 55 yards. Only 4 players caught passes for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs ran 17 times for 80 yards. They need him to step up in a big way with Montgomery dealing with a thigh injury. Montgomery was inactive against the Falcons. He's been a limited participant in practice to start the week. And although it didn't hurt them too badly versus the Falcons, the Lions have real issues on their offensive line. Offensive tackle Taylor Decker inactive for a second straight game. Also, Matt Nelson ankle and Dan Skipper hamstring were hurt during the game. Matt Nelson will have ankle surgery. He's being placed on IR. So the initial week 4 injury report, which is not legit, you have 4 of the team's 5 starting offensive linemen on it. You have Jonah Jackson with a thigh injury, Frank Ragnow with a toe injury and rest. He's expected to be good to go. Halapoulivaati Vaitai with a knee injury and Taylor Decker with the ankle injury. Of course, Matt Nelson not on it because he's been placed on IR. Everybody other than Vaitai is, limited participant and is expected to be in the lineup. But that's a banged up group. On Sunday against the Falcons, the Lions were down to their 4th string offensive tackle. I think this is extremely important for not only us capping the Lions, but also us capping the Atlanta Falcons. Because here was a group in that Falcons front seven that could not take advantage of the Lions going down to their fourth string offensive tackle.
Well said.
It's huge. And so let's just keep it in mind for our Falcons spot. Dan Skipper was signed to the practice squad earlier in the week, played 16 snaps, and then got hurt himself. So they need Decker back. That's clear. They need Decker back, and he's been practicing with a trainer, and he's been upgraded to limited participant. So we expect him to be back. Campbell wouldn't say if Decker is going to be playing this week. The Lions defense was all over Ritter and the Falcons. They held the Falcons to just 183 total yards. They completely shut down the Falcons' dangerous running game, holding them to just 44 yards on 20 attempts. I mean, what a difference a week makes from Seattle gashing them in every conceivable way to the Falcons, such a dangerous running game, able to do nothing on the Lions. So they will need to do the same to the Packers. Aaron Jones is going to be in the lineup. We know that Aaron Jones is going to be in lineup unless, there's a re-injury in practice. He's going to be there. They finished with 7 sacks and 11 tackles for a loss. I mean, that was pretty impressive, this defensive group. The Lions only had 1 sack through their first 2 games. I mean, the crazy extreme dichotomy that we're seeing in some of these teams is nuts. You have a team that gets 1 sack in their first 2 games and gets gashed by the Seahawks, and then all of a sudden you see them with 7 sacks and 11 tackles for a loss in this makeshift offensive line, not letting anybody through. Brian Branch, 11 tackles with 3 of them coming for a loss. Aiden Hutchinson, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, one of which caused the fumble that he recovered. He was back in business in a big way. I'm going to start and hand it over to you before I go deeper. Your thoughts on the Detroit Lions here, and then we'll jump into the Packers next. Take it away.
So, yeah, the Lions. The one thing that I watched this game and I just couldn't stand is all the penalties on the Lions. And going back and watching them, I mean, these were all penalties on the Lions. I call it mob shit sometimes. This was not mob shit like it was in some of the other games that we've seen in the afternoon. And actually on Sunday night when they're trying to get that total to go over, but thank God McDaniel kicked the field goal. I mean, there's really mob shit happening in the NFL to some extent. Wasn't in this case. 10 penalties, 119 yards. Without that, I mean, I think this score would have been a little bit more outrageous like some of the other games this week. But, Goff not being sacked 1 time. He was able to sit in the pocket, make all the throws. And when the pressure did come, he stepped into his throw and took the hit. Made a fucking accurate throw. This is the type of quarterback I love to back. He's always so consistent in the pocket. Like, what you're going to get out of his progression. And what you said about Amon-Ra was interesting to me. Do you know what foot he injured?
I don't. I don't know which one it is.
I was trying to do some research on it, but it looked like, I always get concerned about the repetitive nature of, getting off on that turf toe. That's what concerns me. And it looked like he lined up, whichever side of the field he was on, he lined up with the same leg forward, which means I think he's consciously trying to, avoid that repetitive, explosive get off every snap. So, which is good. He should have some more longevity with that. And on defense, I think they took the performance that they had versus Seattle personally. I mean, this looked like an inspired effort. These guys looked pissed off. The most impressive individual in this game to me was Breon Branch. This guy had 11 tackles, 3 for loss, and 2 pass deflections. I mean, this guy literally was a standout player. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And after watching him in week 2 against the Seahawks, I mean, it was a complete flip-flop from what he did in that game. Aiden Hutchinson looked a lot better in this game. And like you said, I mean, they sacked Ritter, 7 times? I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. And it's the issue is with trusting the defenses, it's easy to play against a team that you could force to be one-dimensional. We know that Atlanta Falcons want to run the ball, and that's exactly what the Lions knew was coming their way. So, the whole scheme, the whole week had to be stop the run, make Ritter beat us, which he couldn't. And I think Ritter's probably the worst quarterback in the NFL, but I was very impressed with the Lions.
I had to be impressed with them. I agree, and I can understand – Terry Walker saying, listening to this breakdown has me undecided. Well, let's hammer the Packers a little bit. 18 unanswered fourth quarter points to pull off the 18-17 victory at home over the Saints. 3rd team in the past 30 years to win after being shut out.
Jimmy, I'm sorry. I should get one more point in on the – I loved I love what Jared Goff had to say after the game in the interview. They were giving him praise and giving the team praise for winning this game and looking so dominant. And he was like, slow down. Like, he said this, we ain't done nothing yet. Like, I just love hearing that. Like, that's not impressive. We lost the game. They still had that loss lingering. Okay, sorry, Jim.
No, it's important. No, it's all of this is very, very crucial to having all the pieces of the puzzle in front of you and seeing if you can put them in the right spots. So Green Bay, the third team in the past 30 years to win after being shut out 17-0 or worse through 3 quarters. Third team in the past 30 years. So, Sky Dragon saying more impressive the way Green Bay rallied. Yes, it was very impressive. Jordan Love, 22 of 44 for 259 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also ran 9 times for 39 yards and a touchdown. Romeo Doubs caught 5 passes. He looked good. Jaden Reed caught 3 passes for 63 yards. And of course, with no Aaron Jones in the lineup, their running game suffered. A.J. Dillon ran 11 times for 33 yards. As we said, Jones is expected back. The Packers were 8 of 18 on third down. That's a tough defense they were going up against. And Rashawn Gary was all over the field. 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, knocking Derek Carr out of the game with one of those hits. Rest of the team had 1 sack and 2 quarterback hits. They're missing 5 key contributors, and we have Spenny in the chat already talking about the expectation of these guys, some of these guys coming back. So let's talk about them here. So we have Jair Alexander with the back injury, Aaron Jones with a hamstring injury, Christian Watson with a hamstring injury, David Bakhtiari with a knee injury, and left guard Elgin Jenkins with a knee injury. Bakhtiari and Jones were missing their 2nd straight games. Watson is yet to play this year. Then Devondre Campbell, linebacker with an ankle injury, and cornerback Carrington Valentine bicep injury left the game. That was Valentine, a 7th-round pick out of Kentucky. That was his first career start. And then offensive tackle Zach Tom hurt his knee late in the game. LaFleur says that Campbell's ankle injury was not the same ankle that had bothered him in the past. He also mentioned that Valentine didn't tear his biceps. So he says that he's hopeful that Jones and Watson will play against the Detroit Lions. I expect them both to be in the lineup. But this is a beat-up squad. Do you know this? Listen to this stat. Between dead cap hits and players who the Packers currently are paying that were unable to suit up, less than half of Green Bay's 2023 salary cap was on the field against the Saints. So they're going to have to mess with their 53-man roster. They're still concerned whether they'll have 46 healthy players on this game day roster. So, yes, I understand that Aaron Jones and Watson will be back. Let's just go past that. But this is a beat-up football team. I think the market moving towards the Packers says that they're going to be healthier than maybe I expected after capping this, because the market will always be the indicator of how healthy a squad is going to be. But those are a lot of issues here. There are a lot of issues, and we all talk about buying low and selling high. And I'm nervous to buy into the Detroit Lions, even though I see them as a healthier squad with a ton to prove because of how good they looked against the Falcons team that may not be nearly as good as I thought they were as I had them in that game at +3.5. And I still don't quite know what to make of the Packers, as we just talked about half their salary cap, not even more than half their salary cap, not even being on the field. So this game makes me uncomfortable. Thursdays make me uncomfortable. I don't know how I didn't move with you on that first half team total over with the Lions last Thursday. And I think, it was because I had missed the first half team total over with the Chiefs 2 weeks back when they only got to 13 and I needed them for the 13.5. And then I cashed it with the Bills minus 130.
Right.
Take it away for us here. Are you close to moving on the side? What do you think about these Green Bay Packers?
I'm really close to moving on the Lions. The problem is the injury report. I think that's the glaring issue, and you kind of touched all on that, so I won't really speak much more to it, but I really need to see who's going to be on the field before I move on the Lions, but I'm looking to back the Lions. But as for the Packers, a lot like the Lions. I mean, these two teams are the most penalized teams in the NFL last week. They had 11 penalties for 90 yards. But something that I think Birdie brought up last week and that I did a little research on, and I watched it again when I watched tape on the Packers this week, is, man, do they take advantage of turning deep shots into pass interference? They really do. I think they had 80 yards in the fourth quarter off pass interference calls, and over 50% of that on one single play, which makes a huge difference in a game. And that's why I want to see vertical threats. And that's what I don't see out of teams like the Patriots. That reduces their value offensively. Just not taking the shot. I mean, even if you don't have players, you got to take those shots. But the Packers, just that, like I said, constant string of penalties. Jordan Love, 6 for 16, 50 yards in the first half. And really struggled, really looked out of sorts in the first half. And to be fair, this guy made every throw that you could imagine in the fourth quarter. I just seen him making perfect throws consistently. These throws were professional throws that Jordan Love was making in the fourth quarter. And I think the vividness bias of seeing what he did and seeing how confident he was. And he was kind of like snobby about it at the end of the game. Like he was kind of like shrugging his shoulders. Like he thought he was the man, which kind of made me start leaning towards the Packers. But I mean, this guy really did step up in the fourth quarter, make some great throws. You got to give it to the kid. But I still think that from a defensive standpoint with the Packers, we haven't seen much. Their pass rush right now is rated 13th per PFF, and I think that's a little overrated now that we see what happened with the Saints and the Falcons and their offensive lines, which haven't looked good. We got to know who's playing in this game. I do see that whoever is the 1.5 to 2.5 point dog when it's all said and done, there's a lot of value on the teaser. Since 2018, this is probably one of the most profitable spots on a teaser at about 85%. And you need to be 75% on a minus 120 teaser to be profitable on any given leg. So I think that either way, you could go with a teaser in this game, whoever is getting the points, but I'm only looking for the Lions.
Sky Dragon saying Green Bay 3-0 first half under. 3-0 to the first half under. That appeals to me. That appeals to me quite a bit. Going over all of the X's and O's and trying to put this all together, the idea that this won't be crazy fireworks off the hop appeals to me.
And Jimmy, here we go again. Home dogs in the primetime game. 24-4 to the under, whatever I posted the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. Here we go again.
Thank you guys for joining us. John Gilly, Birdie, LJ from H-Town. We got great cappers here in the chat. Slatsy, great to see all of you guys. At this point, I am really uncomfortable about betting aside on the Thursday nighter. I agree that I initially was on the Lions, but the Packers are feeling good about themselves. They don't have to travel, and we need to know who is coming back exactly because we know they are fortifying. The first half under appeals to me, but not enough to bet it after this show, not when this total is going from 45 to 46. I mean, will it continue to go higher? So with all of that being said, is there anything that you're leaning towards the Packers? You want them as part of a teaser. Sky Dragon is using them as part of a teaser. The 7.5 for the Packers is his, and he's moving them with Baltimore at plus 8.
Sorry.
No,
man.
it's all good, buddy.
Hey, I'm going to be probably on the Lions when it's all said and done, and I will be on some under in some way, shape, or form. I just want to see who's playing.
All right. There you go. That is our Thursday nighter. Let's move on to Sunday, and we head across the pond to Wembley Stadium in London, England. 9:30 a.m. Eastern is when this pops off. I think that's 3:30 p.m. for them in London. 72 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 11 miles per hour. This is probably the best weather we've ever had in a UK game. Let's take a look at this. Falcons, Jaguars, and what a debacle by the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. I stayed off some spots that I liked. I stayed off of the Broncos and the Panthers, and I actually liked those spots. And then I stayed off of the Texans, and that really drove me crazy. But let's talk about this one here, Atlanta, Jacksonville. We've seen this total open up at 44 at Pinnacle and drop to 43. We have a 1-point drop down to 43. From a side perspective here, we have Jacksonville opening up at, there were offshores that had it at 4.5, but Pinnacle, of course, waited until Sunday night at 8:05 p.m. and they let drop this at a 3 at minus 106. Right now it's minus 3 at minus 113. So there has been 7 cents of movement towards the Jacksonville Jaguars. And from a total perspective here, I should have both of these up, and that's my fault. I'll have it ready for the next one. But from a total perspective, let's move over here. Oh, I did that already. What am I talking about? So we have the 43 and the -3. My bad. Sorry, it's just so many numbers I've been staring at all day. So then cash-wise here for this one, we have 28% of the tickets and 53% of the cash on that under. 28 and 53 on the under. And on the spread, we have 52% of the tickets and 67% of cash on the Jaguars. So, Rainbow the God is waiting for Atlanta to hit to 3.5. Danny Lopez leaning Atlanta team total under. The problem with this spot is it doesn't quite fit our plan, and that's where we want to buy low, because you'd be buying both of these squads low. Falcons came in off an ugly 26 loss at Detroit. We talked about their running game completely shut down by the Lions. Are the Jaguars capable of doing the same? My answer is no. In their first game of the year, 24-10 win at home over the Panthers, these Falcons rushed for 154 yards on 32 carries, 4.8 yards per carry. Then in week 2, 25-24 victory over the Packers, they rushed 45 times for 211 yards, 4.7 yards per carry. Against the Lions, they rushed 20 times for 44 yards, 2.2 yards per carry. I'm not going to sit here and say that this running game is trash and Arthur Smith can't figure it out or anything like that. These sometimes you get stopped, and they just got stopped. Now, Desmond Ridder looked bad, and he's not being protected by the offensive line. He finished 21-38 for 201 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He lost a fumble. Bijan Robinson had 10 carries for 33 yards and caught 4 passes for 27 yards. Kyle Pitts led receivers with 5 catches for 41 yards, and Drake London, for the second time in 3 games, did very little. Only caught 2 passes for 31 yards, but the offense as a whole was held to just 183 total yards. The Falcons averaged just 2.8 yards per play, while the Lions put up 5.6. The offensive line couldn't contain the Lions front 7 that had done nothing through 2 games. While the offense struggled, the Falcons defense tried to keep them in the game. They held the Lions to 4-14 on third down and 1-4 in the red zone. Cordero Patterson, thigh inactive again, despite being listed as questionable. When we thought, when's he going to make his debut? Does he do it here? And then Jeff Okudah returned from an injury to make his Atlanta debut against the team that drafted him in the Detroit Lions. The Jaguars coming off a listless, embarrassing 37-17 loss at home to the Texans. Part of Birdie's cap was that these teams who are about to head over to the UK just don't seem focused. And I know that we've talked about the Bills possibly being in that similar situation, except for the fact that a team that just put up 70 points is coming to Orchard Park. And I think that's going to make somebody pretty intense about the prep for this week. And I decided to still move on the Bills. But we'll get into that later. The Jags looked awful to start the game. Their first 5 drives ended in missed field goal, punt, blocked field goal, punt, and fumble. They were down 17-0 at the half. Trevor Lawrence, 27-40 for 279 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Etienne, 19 carries for 88 yards, caught 4 for 50. Evan Ingram led receivers with 7 catches for 67 yards. Christian Kirk was next with 4 for 54 and a touchdown. Calvin Ridley only caught 3 passes, and he dropped 3 passes, 2 in the red zone, and he was flagged twice for false starts. He played really badly. Where it's kind of thing where you just want to pull him off the field and slap him in the face. The defense looked awful. Back to this offense. The Jaguars had 404 yards of offense and only saw the red zone twice. There's a few teams that fit that mold. 404 yards of offense, you only get the red zone twice. They could get no pressure on C.J. Stroud. 0 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. They allowed the Texans to go 9-15 on third down. Rookie right tackle Anton Harrison injured his right ankle. X-rays were negative. Coach Peterson says he's good to go. But this is what it's come down to. You have a offensive line that's not protecting Trevor Lawrence. You have a rookie getting hurt, and they need him to play because Cole Van Lanen will get the start at right tackle if Harrison isn't available to go. I don't know how to trust either team here. I don't know how to make a move on either team, and maybe you can illuminate the spot better than I just did. Take it away, Troy. The Wembley Stadium UK game number 1, Falcons Jaguars.
I'm a lot like you, where I keep landing in the middle. I mean, all this action on the Jags, I've been shorting the Jags all season. I want to continue to short the Jags, but Falcons are also a team I'm trying to short. I'm not trying to buy the Falcons. I think they've been a fraudulent team through the first few weeks, and you got two teams coming off extreme lows and desperate spots. Jaguars more desperate than the Falcons, to be honest. But yeah, you look at some of these Jags advanced metrics, and you could just tell that it's either poor offensive design or it's a lack of trust completely with the offensive line. Trevor Lawrence is actually, per PFF, is rated as the third best quarterback in the NFL, to my surprise. He's hit last week, in week 3, he had the lowest pocket time, which is 1.3 seconds. So we held on to the ball 1.3 seconds on average in the pocket last week. Dude, that's just enough time to catch the ball, find the laces, and throw it. Like, that's not holding on to the ball at all. And that's a sign of a great quarterback if he knows that if he holds on to it any longer, it's about to be a devastating situation. So, I mean, you got to give it to him. He's trying to do what he can with this offensive line, and I just have to imagine it's I don't want to say it because Doug Peterson is a guy I want to believe in, but I tend to think there's some poor offensive design behind it. So yeah, like you said, no sacks on Stroud. If you can't pressure the QB, your defense sucks. It's that simple. And the Falcons, they can't pass block. You know, they let the Lions sack Ritter 7 times, and the Lions only sacked Geno Smith 1 time. Desmond Ritter's pressured on 26% of his dropbacks. This is the worst quarterback in the league, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far. And per PFF, he's rated one player, 28th in the league, below Justin Fields. And that just kind of stood out to me because I know how bad Justin Fields has been. On the defensive side, the run D is rated 4th. And surprisingly enough, when I watched that team, I watched those defensive backs play for Atlanta. Dude, they're so good in the offense, fitting the run. They play some cover 4 where the safeties just are looking to fit the run. And they do a good job. But their pass rush is trash. Their coverage is trash, even though they could stop the run. So, a lot of these defensive grades for this team fell off a cliff last week when they played a competent offense. I mean, Jesus. I mean, give me the points if I had to take a side. But one thing I'm going to take in this game is Calvin Ridley. He's got a revenge game versus his old team, Atlanta, who sold his ass. Didn't want him. I'll take his yards, his touchdowns, all that. I know he's coming off a bad game as well. I think this is a great time to take some Calvin Ridley. So that's what I'm going to be betting on in this game.
Calvin Ridley props. I do my very best to stay away from player props, but if I ever back them, it's fading somebody off a spectacular night or backing someone off of a poor one. But my ROI is much, much better fading a player after a spectacular game rather than trying to catch a falling knife. Now, this is different catching the falling knife because you have the Rabenga with the Falcons. So I can see that look. Spenny Penny Bomb says Ridley going to eat that secondary apart. A lot of people looking at, if they can get the Falcons at 3.5, waiting for the 3.5. And Terry Walker says over. I don't trust these offenses to move the ball at a rate that would casually, comfortably hit the over. But the Jaguars just allowed 37 points to the Texans. So even though I can't comfortably bet the under, I don't want the over. So I do not force myself into having action on Thursday nights or England games. I don't need them. I tell myself that, and I say it out loud just so I don't reach.
Tell you what, though, Jim, when I do see you bet a prop, I don't think I've ever seen you miss a prop. I mean, you probably bet 3 in the past year or so, but I don't know if I've ever seen you miss a prop, and the ones you lean towards always cash.
Well,
Oh, you missed an under. You bet LeBron maybe under one time, and
I did bet LeBron under one time, and he got there. He got there late in the last year. But
if there's 2 people in this game that I want to align with when I'm betting a prop, it's Spenny Penny and it's Mike M. And seeing Spenny in the chat, giving some love to Ridley, I mean, that's a beautiful thing. I
like it. I see where you're at. I can understand people wanting the Falcons at plus 3.5, but it's a double-edged sword. If it gets to 3.5, isn't that going to make you a little nervous? That it moved there. So
true.
I get it. I get it. Birdie says, have to think you all are not the only folks pitting the Ridley revenge angle to work. Would think the books would have adjusted. Under on Ridley seems more plus EV, given I suspect the books have adjusted. That's fair. Darren Turner says, kind of lean the Jags in London. Look, they've been there a lot. They're comfortable there. And I don't want to invest in any, you hear Troy talking about shorting both these teams. I don't see how you could confidently back one of them. Let's move on. This is the big one. 1 p.m. Eastern, Miami Dolphins, undefeated, 2-0 on the road at the Buffalo Bills, 2-1, 1-0 at home. I was watching this line all day because it takes a long time and to properly prepare for the show. And I wish, and now when the buys come, we start the buys next week. That's going to be so advantageous for me because then I'll be able to finish in enough time to really sit with the work. And what ends up happening is I need to sit with the work when I'm live with you guys, which is not the way I would like it. But I was hoping this line wasn't going to move. I didn't want it to move, and it started moving too quickly. And it's come back a little bit. At 5:30 p.m. at Pinnacle, this moved from -2.5 at -117 to -2.5 at -128. So I immediately went to Bet365 and saw that the -120 was still there. And I was like, oh, I got to bet it. I just have to bet it. I want the Bills here. I want the Bills on their field goal. I want them at home. And I don't mind spending a dime on it. And I could have got them earlier in the day at -115. I could have got them this morning at -110. So it was my fault for waiting. And that's going to happen a lot with a Tuesday night show and wanting to talk all these games over with everybody, with you, Troy, and with everybody in the chat. Right now it's at -123. So we've had 17 cents of movement to the Buffalo Bills. We talk about, when we have big favorites or teams with something, like the trip going to the UK after or then in the following week. We need, if you're going to bet a big favorite, there has to be motivation. And if you're going to expect the team to not be focused or thinking about a trip to London, where the Bills will be next week, it's the Dolphins coming to town. And the reason we were so heavy on the Chiefs was they had motivation. The reason why Oregon smacked Colorado, with that huge 21-point spread was because they had enormous amounts of motivation. The reason why I couldn't take Temple, even though I kind of liked them against Miami, was because Miami was on their first road game of the year. So Miami was going to have the motivation. It was a really easy sell as a coach to motivate. I'm not concerned about the UK trip. Took me a long time to get there, but that's basically what I'm saying. From a total scenario, we are sitting at a 54. That's where it opened, at 54. That's where it is right now. We have had an 8-cent move to the under. 8-cent move to the under. Here we go. Highmark Stadium, Orchard Park, New York, 74 Fahrenheit, sunny, 5 miles per hour. I will be able to hear the stadium from here, man. This is as big an early football game of the year that I can remember over there at Orchard Park. Let's take a look at the cash flow for this spot. We have 40% of the tickets and 72% of the cash on the Buffalo Bills. And from a total side of things, you have 84% of tickets and 82% of cash on the over. Miami comes in off that dominant 70-20 victory at home over the Broncos. Scored the most points in the game by an NFL team since 1966. Set a franchise record for scoring. Finished 2 points shy of the NFL regular season record. Of course, they could have got it if they wanted to. It was a smart move by McDaniels not kicking that field goal. Fourth team in NFL history to score at least 70 points in the regular season or playoff game. 726 yards of offense. 10.2 yards per play. 6 of 6 in the red zone. Everything I said there, I would like to fade that team the next week. This goes towards the same thing we were talking with player props. Tagovailoa, 23 of 26, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He completed each of his first 17 pass attempts. Mike White even got into it, 2 for 2 with 67 yards and a touchdown. Miami scored touchdowns on 8 of 9 drives. Devon Achane was unbelievable third-round pick out of Texas A&M. I mean, how many speedsters does this team have? 18 carries for 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, caught 4 passes for 30 yards, 2 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert ran 13 times for 82 yards, 4 touchdowns, caught 7 passes for 60 yards, touchdown. Dolphins ran for 350 yards and 43 carries, rushed for 5 touchdowns, 8.1 yards per carry. Tyreek Hill caught 9 passes for 157 yards and a touchdown. The defense was all over Russell Wilson. They only sacked him once, but they hit him 12 times. Held the Broncos to 3 of 12 on third down, 1 of 4 in the red zone. Safety Javon Holland forced 2 fumbles. Emmanuel Ogbah had an interception. And Jalen Waddle missed the first game of his career in concussion protocol. Also, River Craycraft hurt his shoulder. Wide receiver in the second quarter was ruled out. The starting linebacker Jalen Phillips left just before halftime with an oblique injury. Phillips making his return. He missed the week 2 game because of a back injury. And then center Connor Williams left in the third quarter with a groin injury. Williams started every game since joining Miami last season. He wanted the extension in the offseason. They wouldn't give it to him. He thought about sitting out. And now Liam Eichenberg had to replace him, and Eli Apple is in concussion protocol. Those are a lot of issues, a surprising amount of issues for a team that just dominated 70-20. Bills come in off an extremely impressive 37-3 victory at Washington. They've outscored their opponents 75-13 since losing to the Jets in week 1. Josh Allen, 20-32 for 218 yards, touchdown and a pick, ran 3 times for 46 yards and a touchdown. The offensive line protected them all game. The Commanders did not sack Allen once in 32 passing attempts. Not once. That very, very dangerous front group did not sack him one time. Stephon Diggs caught 8 passes for 111 yards. James Cook, 15 carries for 98 yards, caught 2 passes for 14 yards. Now, there's still things to work on. Their red zone play has not been great. They were 2 of 4 in the red zone. Allen threw yet another pick. But the Bills' defense looked excellent. It was the first time since 1995 that a defense sacked the quarterback 9+ times and picked them off 4+ times. That's what the defense did last week. Now, you could say the same thing I just said about not believing in the Dolphins offense. You could say, well, why would you then think that this Bills defense would be able to follow that up? And no, they're not going to be able to follow it up. And neither is it. Maybe both will regress to the mean. And that's why we're going to have a real close game right around the 3 points. Terrell Bernard had 7 tackles, 2 sacks, a pick, and recovered a fumble. First NFL player with 2 or more sacks, an interception, and a fumble recovery since Urlacher in 07. Epinesa, Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde also had interceptions. Epinesa returned his to the house. Held the Commanders to 0-2 in the red zone, 1-9 on third down, 0-1 on fourth down. Take it away here for us, Troy. This is my only bet that I've made before the show started. Everything else I like to add during the show or after the show and plan it during the show. I'm on the Bills -2.5.
This is one game. I mean, you look at this game, it's immediately the first game you want to look into. I mean, it's just the best game on the card, but you could pick your poison, man. It's about the toughest game you could imagine. And it's definitely a Bills or nothing spot, seeing how great the Dolphins have been and seeing my guy Jimmy the Bag on the Bills. I mean, that's enough for me to fade the Dolphins, or not fade the Dolphins, but stay away from backing the Dolphins at the very least. But I just have questions about these the strength of schedule for these guys so far. The Bills against the Jets, the Raiders, and the Commanders. Some good defenses mixed in there, and they've been impressive. They had the best third down conversion rate in the NFL right now. That's the Buffalo Bills, and that's versus the Jets, with the Jets and Commanders as 2 of their 3 games. It's 66% of their sample. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. But there's just some things that I'm personally missing with these Bills and how their defense is. Because, yeah, sure, they locked down the Commanders, forced Holland to 4 interceptions, and look great in doing so. But the 3 out of the first 4 possessions, the Commanders marched right into the red zone. And that resulted in 2 picks and a 4-and-out on the goal line. So it didn't turn out well, but they still allowed the Commanders to drive down the field. And then the bottom kind of fell out, and they weren't able to repeat that to any degree. And the Jets were able to dominate a little bit in the run game on the Bills. And that kind of turned me off a little bit. And the same thing goes for when you look at the other side. When you start looking into the Dolphins of the sky. The fucking Dolphins. The Dolphins played the Chargers, the Broncos, the Patriots, and what they were able to do offensively versus the Chargers and the Broncos was impressive, but that wasn't really there against the Patriots. I just feel like the word's out, the judge is out, the jury's out on these 2 teams still. I still need to see more. I want to be on the Bills, It's just so hard to get there. And I sent you a false stat, Jimmy. I meant to apologize earlier. I sent you something about Josh Allen getting sacked at the highest rate in the NFL. It's vice versa. The Bills sack at the highest rate in the NFL on the lowest amount of attempts. So take that for what it is. But the Bills defense has been sacking the quarterback. They had played against some pretty shitty offensive lines and the Commanders and the Jets. Holy crap, this is a tough game. I think I would have moved on the Bills if it wasn't for these. And I should have prefaced this early in this conversation with all these games because there's so many that apply. Divisional dogs. Divisional dogs. It doesn't have to be a home dog. Divisional dogs in general. And specifically the ones that land on 3. So home favorites in the division and their favorites of 3 points since 2020 are 9-18 ATS. I mean, this is definitely 100% a Bills or nothing spot. I just can't get to a side in this game.
You know, these totals at 54, I immediately want to bet the under. I wanted to bet the under in Vikings Chargers, and I couldn't do it. And when I was watching it, I was thankful in the second half that I wasn't on the under, although it cashed, which tells me that the first half under here cut out the late game hijinks. That's more than possible. We know the Bills are going to want long drives. Slow this game down. So the first half under has begun to appeal to me here.
Well, I have good news for you. Last year, totals that were over 52 were 2-9 to the under.
Yeah, I every time I see a 54, I want to try to get underneath it. I was just a little nervous in the last one. This one I think is probably perfect. It's probably a perfect spot to do it in. But I'm not sure if I move on this tonight. It's another thing when you have these games with an implied high volatility with the high total. It's nerve-wracking pressing the button on the under. So that still exists.
I'm making a note on that, Jimmy. I like the under in this game. I mean, this is just a complete change of competition for both teams. I think there's going to be a huge adjustment period. First half under sounds sexy.
Because if I told you that 21 points were scored in the last 5 minutes of this football game, would that surprise anybody? No. So I'd want to keep that out of it. Birdie says biggest factor for me is the Bills defense is just not fast enough, especially in the secondary to hang with Miami speed. That's very valid and fair. Bigger Goose says Bills have dominated Orchard Park last 6 there. Also 8 out of the last 10 in this series. He says, Allen, don't fuck this up.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Bills as short home favorites, very profitable. Very profitable team.
I'd like to keep the amount of action like I had last week. I thought that was right in my wheelhouse. I'd like to have about 10 bets, and so we'll see how much I have, but this first half under is becoming more and more appealing. So, and Jared TG says his Dolphins are nothing for him. So he says we'd probably rather just bet the under and enjoy watching the game. Jared TG, that's the fun. No one in the chat ever be uncomfortable being on the other side of either Troy or I and stating it publicly. That's part of the fun, and we don't ever take offense of any of that. All right. That is Dolphins Bills. I'm already on the Bills -2.5. We'll see if I expect to move on the first half under. I'm not sure if I'll do it tonight. And then we will see what Troy moves on. Let's move on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, Denver Broncos 0-3, 0-1 on the road at the Chicago Bears. Also 0-3, 0-1 at home. We're at Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. 71 Fahrenheit, sunny, 5 miles per hour. Let's get right into the line history here for this spot bum fight here in Soldier Field. Go right to the line history. We will start with the total. It has been climbing. Opened up at 45.5 at Pinnacle, and it's now at 46.5. We have a 1-point move towards the over. Move over to the spread. On the spread, we are sitting here at 3, but this Broncos 3 is heavily juiced. This Broncos 3 is up to -118. This opened up at 2.5, and it was only slightly juiced to the Broncos at that point. And now they are -3 at -118. So I imagine here we're going to have a ton of cash on these Broncos coming off the debacle at Miami Gardens. So we have on the total 51% of the tickets, 59% of the cash on the under, and on the spread 81% of the tickets and 74% of the cash on the Denver Broncos. Big Ragu says Denver, believe it, totally embarrassing loss. Danny Lopez says calling 1-800-GAMBLERS if you bet this game. I don't want to be friends with people who don't bet these types of games.
Hey, the
How about
pros are betting the shit out of this game. Let me tell you that.
How about that? I want all my friends to need to have action on games like this. If you don't need to have action on a game like this, then find somebody else to talk to. Broncos come in off an extremely embarrassing 70-20 loss in Miami. Allowed the most points in the game by an NFL team since 1966. The Broncos defense was an atrocity. Miami scored touchdowns on 8 of 9 drives, 6 of 6 in the red zone. They got 0 sacks and 1 quarterback hit. Not only that, they were one of 2 teams this past week that had 0 passes defended. 0 in the game. So Justin Simmons and Frank Clark. Clark missed his second straight game. Simmons wasn't on the injury report until Wednesday. And this is his second hip issue in the last few months. Then Josie Jewell, their linebacker, leading tackler, left in the first half with a groin injury and did not return. So their third-round pick, Drew Sanders, has to fill in for Jewell. I mean, so who of these 3 is going to be back? You need them back. So there's an expectation that Josie Jewell will be there, but if Simmons' second hip issue in the last few months, this is crucial information, and we'll have a better idea when the injury report comes out tomorrow. Only one coach in Broncos history started out worse than Sean Payton at 0-3, and that's Vic Fangio. The Dolphins defensive coordinator started at 0-4. Russell Wilson has started at 0-3 for the first time in his career. 23 of 38 for 306 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Cortland Sutton, 8 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown, but he lost 2 fumbles. Jerry Jeudy, 5 catches for 81 yards. We need him to heat up. Marvin Mims Jr. had 3 catches for 73 yards and returned a kick 99 yards for a touchdown. Javonte Williams had 11 carries for 42 yards. They were 3 of 12 on third down, 1 of 4 in the red zone. The Bears come in off their 13th straight loss, a 41-10 disaster in Kansas City. They were down 41-0 going to the 4th. Chiefs put up 31 first downs compared to the Browns' 11. Justin Fields was awful, just horrible. 11 of 22 for 99 yards and a touchdown pick. He also ran 11 times for 47 yards. DJ Moore caught 3 passes for 41 yards and a touchdown. The defense was atrocious. So 4 days before the game, Alan Williams, defensive coordinator, resigned. Says he needs to take care of his health and family. Now, Eberflus is calling the defensive plays, just like he did in Tampa. The Chiefs were 5 of 5 in the red zone and 10 of 14 on third down. Obviously, this was a difficult task that he was set up with. They finished with 0 sacks and 5 quarterback hits, but their numbers were horrible across the board. I mean, forget about the 2 interceptions of Blaine Gabbert in the fourth quarter. The defense is a mess. Eddie Jackson inactive with the foot injury. Josh Blackwell dealing with the hamstring injury. Cornerback Tyreek Stevenson is in concussion protocol. And then again, Jaquan Brisker goes down. This time it's not for a sickness. Both him and Jalen Johnson were injured during the game. Very, very crucial player personnel information on both of these defenses that we need to know desperately. Take it away here for us, Troy. Broncos, Bears at Soldier Field.
So this is straight up battle of the bums after last week, what we've seen. I mean, it looked like those 2 teams, the Bears and the Broncos, were incompetent teams. They didn't belong on an NFL field. And from what I've seen, I agree with what I've seen. Watching the Bears, I mean, it was kind of a disgrace. Bad quarterback play is part of it, but nobody's doing their job. Don't get the shit twisted. Nobody's doing their job out there for the Chicago Bears. So blaming that one player, I get it, and the metrics back that up, and he's missing reads, he's missing throws. But, I mean, this goes from the top, from the front office down to the practice roster. I think there's problems in the Bears organization, and I still think those still need to be mined. Right. We need to clean house. We need to do something in Chicago because it's getting ugly. Gun to my head in this game. You got to go with the points at the same time. And like we were talking about, I mean, you like all your boys to be on this type of game. And I know from what I've seen and from what I've heard so far, I think the Sharps and the pros are backing the Bears. it's just so hard for me. There's just some interesting things I find on this Bears offense. The pass blocking is actually done better than I thought. They're grading out 17th best in the NFL, which surprises me, which even speaks more volumes to how bad Justin Fields has been. But the run blocking is 32nd, but the Bears running backs have performed great. I mean, these Bears running backs are the best positional group on the Chicago Bears right now. That's just what it is. The Broncos, on the other hand, I mean, how bad do these losses look now? The Raiders, the Commanders, and then the Dolphins by 50. Now it's starting to look a little bad. And the embarrassment, some teams rally, some teams show professionalism, but if you don't show professionalism when you're down 40, 30 points in the NFL, I don't know. It's so hard for me to want to pick a side in this game. But to be honest with you, just the 3.5 that you're getting with the Bears, I think it's the right side.
Caleb saying the Bears team is a step slow, below even Denver. Al Cervic says if you want to bet Fields rushing, this is the game. Spenny says Bears are an absolute mess. Just had a coach taken away by the FBI. Franchise is a joke right now. Dennis Garcia says Denver's defense is broken, unrecognizable. Forget last week. The week before, they let Sam Howell go up and down. They don't tackle, they don't cover, and the team as a whole has a glass chin. He says, what has Denver done to lay points on the road? He loves Chicago here.
Exactly.
Slatsy says, funniest line by writer John Beach, trying to pick a winner in this game is like trying to pick what you want for lunch, and your only options are grilled hamster and a rock. Grilled hamster doesn't sound so bad. Doesn't sound so bad. Darren Turner says, yeah, I think Bears are the side. And Paco Healy says that Bears are power rated below the Broncos, but barely. What about points here? You watch this Bears team. I know you've watched them, all of these games, more than once here now, but the Broncos can't stop anything. Their offenses look pretty good. This total is moving towards the over. What do you think of, and let me just double check exactly what's happened on the total. I thought I had it right in front of me. So this total is sitting at 46. Really, it's a 46, although some books like BetChris has a 46.5 minus 108 to the over. It's just plus 103 to the over here at Pinnacle, but this is a move to the over. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. If I didn't hear someone I have massive respect for talking about how great the under is in this per the luck rankings. So the over does make sense. It's kind of moving through some non-significant numbers, even though I'm not very tuned up on totals as much as I am for spreads. Like, I know the most important line for a spread is 6. I couldn't tell you what it is for a total. So, I mean, I agree with the move at face value, but without digging into it more, I mean, I know this too. As the line moves to the over, it goes under at a higher rate. Line moves towards the under are way stronger than any line movement to the over. And that's just what it was last year, which is all I have cash flow back to. I have a bunch of line movement and line functionality for 3 years. I have cash flow data and line functionality only for 1 year. And that the line moves to the over, go under.
I'm going to need more time. I'm going to need more time with this spot here. I'm going to need more time with this spot, but I find it clearly the Bears have looked worse than the Broncos.
Very clear.
But that doesn't mean that they won't have value as a home dog here.
They were down by 3 points to the Bucs in Tampa Bay with what was supposed to be their last possession.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That wasn't a bad performance. Okay, I'm going to need more time on this Broncos Bears
Yes,
spot.
it was. It was a bad performance, man. I think it was, man. It's just,
I mean, compared to what? Because these teams have been god awful. Okay, let's roll on right now and move off the bum fight there. Next up for us, Baltimore Ravens at Cleveland Browns. Ravens 2-1, 1-0 on the road. Browns 2-1, 2-0 homer at Cleveland Browns Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio. 73 Fahrenheit, sunny, 7 miles per hour. I sent you a message today about this game. And, I have the luxury of being in some football chats with some great cappers, and a bunch of them are here in our chat. And I saw a bunch of them extremely interested in the Ravens. We also heard Doc talking about this division and saying how, in the AFC North, you can just shake them all up and let them roll out, and it's -3. Doesn't matter where they're playing or who's playing. It's a -3 situation. But I've been watching these Browns, and good God, are they a good football team? They are such a good football team. And the Ravens are dealing with all these injuries. But I sent you the message. I said, are the Browns a trap? Are they a trap? Now, obviously, this total is very appealing. It opened up at 42, juiced pretty heavy to the under, and it moved to 41, about 15 hours later. This 41 is juiced. I expect to see 40.5 very soon. I'm very interested in the under. Rainbow the God says Ravens easy. Danny Lopez liking the Browns. So I'm very interested in the under, as I will be in every Browns game and every Titans game. But obviously, that was my most confident bet of the week. And when it cashes quite comfortably like it did, you have this bias in your head, your subconscious, that makes you want to go back to the well. And I try to refrain from doing that.
When you have a most confident bet of the week, I missed the pub hub, so that's probably my own fault. But when you have a confident bet, please let me know. Shit, I would have bet it. Like I would trust that.
I was coming off a tough week.
I know, but
in a regular situation,
I know how it is.
In a regular situation, I would have done that. And I will do it as we move forward. Here we go. The -2.5 here for the Browns. It's at -115. It got up to -120 today. This -2.5 opened up at -114, and the first move was towards the Ravens. Who comes in when the line opens up immediately? It's not the schmucks. It's not the public. And they move to the Ravens immediately. The +2.5 on the Ravens got up to -120 Monday at 4:30 in the morning. So that was another red flag that got me uncomfortable about the Browns. And here we go. The official NFL play of the day from Ron Crawford, Baltimore +2.5. Spenny Pennybomb says Ravens are 12-3 against the spread in their last 15 in Cleveland. Okay, let's take a look at the cash flow for this spot. This is the kind of football that I want to watch. I'd prefer to watch it in poor weather, inclement weather. I'd prefer to watch, but I love these games with these.
Jimmy, that this moved to 3 at Pinnacle now.
It has? Okay, I still have the 2.5 at -115.
I'm seeing a 3.
At what number?
A +102.
Okay, that's valid.
They crossed the line, though. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's very important stuff. 58% of tickets are on the Browns and 50% of the cash. From a total scenario, we have 75% of tickets on the under, and we don't have a cash number given to us at this point. Control Your Vessel says the Ravens have a lot of injuries. They sure do. Let's talk about it. Ravens coming off that shocking 22-19 overtime loss at home to the Colts. It was gorgeous. We were on the Colts. Everything. I'm on the Colts season win total over 6.5. Like everything was perfect. Everything was just absolutely beautiful. I loved every second of it. Now their penalty should have been called on that last play for the Ravens, but whatever. Shouldn't leave it to those spots anyways. So Lamar Jackson, 22 of 31 for 202 yards. He also ran 14 times for 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did fumble twice, losing one of them. 4 first half fumbles for the Ravens, losing 2. Some bad luck. Ravens ran 37 times as a team for 186 yards. It doesn't matter who's available for the team. They're going to run. Zay Flowers had 8 catches for 48 yards. Mark Andrews caught 4 for 35. He hasn't looked very good. Still beaten, still hurting. They were just 6 of 16 on third down, only made 2 entries into the red zone. They cashed both of them. Offense couldn't get it done when it mattered most. 2 chances in overtime with incredible field position and couldn't get it done. And Zach Moss was excellent.
Did you see those plays
I did.
that the Ravens were running in overtime? Oh.
It was vanilla.
Oh, I haven't thought on it.
The Colts forced the Ravens to a 4th and 3 at the Indy 47. Lamar Jackson threw incomplete. Kyle Hamilton was excellent, though. Finished 9 tackles, 3 sacks. As a team, the Ravens finished with 5 sacks. That was wrong. 5 sacks and 7 quarterback hits. Baltimore has several injuries. Let's start going over them and see who we think is going to be where and what. So Odell Beckham Jr. dealing with the ankle injury. He was out. So was cornerback Marlon Humphrey. Left tackle Ronnie Stanley and center Tyler Linderbaum were out. Those are huge missing pieces. Linebacker David Ojabo left with an early ankle injury, and Gus Edwards is in concussion protocol. So that left them trying to close out the game with Melvin Gordon and Kenyon Drake. And that's not a 1-2 punch that's going to win you a lot of football games anymore. Drake was just signed last week to activate from the practice squad. Also, Rashad Bateman, we're all waiting for him to get rolling, and he re-injured his hamstring. Safety Geno Stone has a rib injury. And so now what are the Ravens doing? Well, they're about to sign Kyle Van Noy. Maybe they signed him today, but that's what it's come down to. So Odafe Owe did not play in Sunday's loss. As I said, David Ojabo left after 4 snaps with the ankle injury. Tyus Bowser has been on the non-football injury list since the start of training camp. He can't return to week 5 at the earliest. So who does that leave for the Ravens? 4th round outside linebacker Tavius Robinson played 55 snaps. Jeremiah Moon played 46 snaps in his first career NFL game. So can Van Noy come in? I mean, it's been a long time since he was, one of the big pieces to that Patriot Super Bowl winning defense. The Browns come in off a dominant 27-3 victory at home over the Titans in their first game without Chubb. They outgained the Titans 341-94. Deshaun Watson, 27-33, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, his best game in the Browns uniform. He also ran 4 times for 16 yards. Amari Cooper caught 7 passes for 116 yards, and they like each other. They're real friends, and the magic between Watson and Cooper is only just getting started. If they
that matters, that fucking matters too.
I agree, and they both need to stay healthy. But the Titans are a very hard group to run on, so it comes as no surprise that the ground game looked terrible in that first start without Chubb. Pierre Strong ran 6 times for 27 yards. Jerome Ford ran 10 times for 18 yards. Now he got a touchdown. He also caught 2 passes for 33 yards and a touchdown. But Kareem Hunt, he's going to take him a little bit to get rolling. 5 carries for 13 yards. They were 2 of 2 in the red zone. The defense was incredibly good. They held the Titans to 6 first downs. I mean, what does that remind you of? Oh, of course, week 1. They held the Bengals to 6 first downs. This defense is nasty. They forced the Titans upon 7 times in 9 possessions. Derrick Henry was held to 11 carries for 20 yards. How do you big dick Derrick Henry? I mean, you got to be a monster to do that. And who's that monster? Myles Garrett, 5 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. As a team, the Browns had 5 sacks and 8 quarterback hits. My goodness. Held the Titans to 2 of 12 and 3rd down, 0 of 2 in the red zone, controlled every facet of the game, had the ball for 38 minutes and 29 seconds of the tilt. And the first thing I think of is 10 years ago, I'd already be on the Browns. But I just know that everybody is thinking the same thing. Not everybody. Not the Sharps, not Ron Crawford, not the people who are using their advanced models. But the public all just saw the Browns dominate and the Ravens lose at home to the Colts. And that's why I have to stop myself and wonder, am I about to walk into a trap? Take it away, Troy. The floor is yours. Ravens, Browns.
So it's going to probably come as a surprise to you. When I first started looking at this game, I was thinking Ravens on a teaser. That was kind of where I was leaning. And I'll take the Ravens if they get to a 3. And after the games last week, I mean, just like you just said, Browns smack down the Titans. Ravens lose outright as 8-point favorites. But when you start looking at this game, I always start with the market, see sharp action on the Browns. But, after the Colts loss, I mean, it just gave me so much pause, so much hesitation. So this was the first game I watched. I have 4 screens in my room right now. I watch 4 games at a time. I always have a game on my main screen. This game never made the main screen because I didn't have my action on it. So I had to go back and rewatch it. This was number 1 on the list. And what I seen was actually pretty fucking crazy. Watson, he looked rough early. And at watching the first half, first couple drives, first possession, I was like, man, I was watching thinking, same old shit. How did they put up 27 points? There's no way it was from this guy, Deshaun Watson. But he progressively got better and better, and they utilized him to his strengths. which is the deep ball. He throws the deep ball. He throws an incredible deep ball, and he led week 3 in air yards per attempt. And I think that's actually pretty impressive too, because they were on the bottom half of that spectrum before week 3. And Amari Cooper, I'm telling you right now, this guy goes for 200 plus yards easily, if not for the pass interferences that were or weren't called. Some were, some weren't. It didn't end up mattering because they smacked them down anyway. So I was extremely impressed with this Browns offense after losing Chubb. I mean, definitely an inspired effort. Like you say, I mean, you lose your star, teams step up, and they fill the void. And so, like, you know, still after watching the Browns on offense, I was still a little skeptical. But then the defense, I mean, this shit's just crazy. How many snaps have been in the red zone? I think it's 2 snaps have been inside the Browns red zone. And the first snap that they took in the Browns red zone, the Titans picked up a fumble inside the 20. What happened after that? The very next play, they lose 4 yards. It ended up being 3 consecutive plays of lost yards, resulting in the only Titans 3 points in the entire game. They didn't give up a first down until halfway through the second quarter. They have the best third down defense in the NFL. And watching film on this, I mean, dude, offenses look scared. These offensive skill players and the quarterbacks, they look scared. The QB's internal clock's got to be ticking. He's got to be thinking about it. He has to be because the pressure is so extraordinary. Running backs are scared to turn up and turn it upfield. You see, I've seen so many times where Tyjae Spears or Derrick Henry, King Henry, moving laterally to the line of scrimmage, and he did not want to turn that bitch upfield because they were going to bring the boom on his ass, and they definitely did that. Held him to just scraps at the very best. What's the QB psychology got to be when you're playing against the Browns? You hesitate for 1 second, you're sacked, potential turnovers. And Lamar Jackson, his ball security, I mean, he's loosey-goosey with the ball in the pocket. Go back and watch him play his last game. He looks solid in the pocket, but his ball security, he's not holding it with 2 hands. He's coming hand on, hand off. I mean, this is going to end up resulting in a fumble, at least one fumble. And we know Lamar Jackson likes to fumble the ball, especially in the pocket. And his past few games versus the Browns, I mean, 4 picks, 1 touchdown? He was able to win a couple of those games, but I expect this offense to have a better output versus this Ravens defense. Who have the Ravens played? Texans with a rookie QB in week 1 with a decimated team. They didn't have any of their players. The Bengals with a hobbled Joe Burrow. Oh, yeah, but, you know, the Browns play Joe Burrow too. Well, they smacked Joe Burrow 24-3. You know, the Ravens beat him by a field goal. There's a difference there. There's definitely a difference, in my opinion, between those 2 performances. And the Colts, what happened with the Colts? Another competitive team, they took a loss. A game they shouldn't have lost. I mean, it took 50-yard field goals or whatever from the Colts. I don't think they should have lost that game, but they definitely were never in range of covering that game. I mean, Lamar Jackson, I've been talking about fading this guy. I've been talking about his leadership for 3 straight weeks. You guys know how I feel about that. But how about Harborough? You watch the offensive play calling late in the second half and in overtime? Tell me you don't trust your quarterback without telling me you don't trust your quarterback. That's what Harbaugh did with his play calling late in that game. And on 3rd and short on the 50-yard line to win the game, first down ices this game because you know you got Justin Tucker. What do you do? Wide open receiver, threw the ball behind him. Maybe there was a little pressure. So you can imagine the pressure here is going to be a lot more. I just struggled to find between Lamar Jackson's ball security, the injury-riddled roster, Harbaugh and Munkin, obviously lack of faith and trust with Lamar Jackson, who's supposed to be their supreme leader as a quarterback. You know, this is a brown spot all the way for me. And I moved a lot more confidently knowing that I went into this looking towards the Ravens. And immediately after watching film, coming back, looking at the stats, looking at the data, this is a perfect spot for the Browns. So a couple trends that I was able to find, you know, because we know I'm going up against trends with divisional dogs. Divisional dogs outperform. They've been profitable for seasons now, for a few seasons. You know, and it goes on and off, some stronger than others, definitely. But I'll tell you this. When the Sharps on the home team, sharp action on the home spread, the Sharps are 15-4, 79%. Sharp action on the money line, 12-7 ATS and straight up. Now, when the sharps are on the home team and the line moves towards the home team, 6-0, winning by 14 points on average. Right now, that applies to this game. I'm on the Browns, Jimmy. I'm on a money line minus 2.5. You got me down for 2 units on them, but I'm going to have a lot more than that.
Wow, that's exciting. It's exciting. You're right. Everything is pointing in that direction, and yet I'm still scared. I'm still nervous. Something
And I
just
don't blame you. I really can't blame anyone for taking the Ravens in the spot. It's hard to do so, especially when you just blindly back a team that looked like shit and lost as favorites and against the team. Like, betting the Ravens in this spot seems profitable, but the divisional part, like, I just think there's more to it than just the trends.
I think I'm going to move on the under. What is your thought on that? I know we got to keep rolling here, but what is your thought on that number at 41? Do you feel like 42 is a much nicer spot? That 41 is a sharp line? What do you think about this total?
I think it's going under 38. I think it's going well under. I just have more faith in the Browns defense to win this ball game. And this is, all the offensive things that I've talked about with the Browns, that's all upside. It's this defense, and just what they've done has just been so incredible. I mean, have you seen the clip, Jim, where they had the 2 tight ends moving with Garrett back and forth from the left side to the right side? I don't know if you've seen that.
I don't know if I have, no.
Oh, shit, man. It's hilarious. So the Titans got called for a penalty because they were moving their tight end and their H back they're following Garrett. So Garrett went from the right side of the line. He moved to the left side. They moved to the left side. He moves to the right side. They follow him across the field. This cat and mouse game happened 3 times, and all of a sudden the yellow flag comes out, delay a game. Like, these teams are they're having trouble with this Browns defense.
I completely get, and Rand saying, the issues backing a Ravens team when you don't have, Ronnie Stanley. I mean, he's the Tyler Linderbaum. Of course, their center is important, but Ronnie Stanley's just such a vet. I'm going to bet the under tonight. I want it in my pocket. Even that kind of makes me nervous because it just seems so blatant to me. And then the Browns seem blatant as well. And then I see cappers that I really respect on the other side.
I hear a lot of people liking the Ravens. I know what the cash flow is. I mean, the cash flow is kind of telling us it's 50-50 in terms of bets, right?
I did not know that you were so bullish on the Browns, and sure makes it. This is how do you pick between the Browns game and the Bills game? I mean, you guys should just go back and forth every 30 seconds. But I love you being bullish on the Browns. I respect it enormously. The eye test, I would say the same thing. I'm going to bet the under at this point, and I'm not sure what else I'm going to do. It's funny in this division. You have the Browns. They always beat the Bengals, and the Ravens. They always beat the Browns, and it seems to always kind of stick to the pattern, no matter what the player personnel situation is. But I can understand backing them. Ron Crawford says I have Cleveland by 14. Says that line is telling me.
Hey, so I got to speak to Al Cervic's point in the chat because I love this. He said the secondary is being totally overlooked for Browns because the line's been so dominant. Right. It's not just the defensive line. Yes, the defensive line is dominant, but the coverage behind it's just damn as good. And they're playing just damn as intense as the defensive line. Oh, shit. Lost my train of thought, man. I had a good point. I'll come back to you, Al. I had a good point. I'll come back to you.
Oh, there's just so much information that we're trying to get across. I know it's easy to get lost when we start riffing. Let's move on. We have Troy heavy on the Browns, and I'm going to bet the under 41 this evening, and I kind of was hoping to bet it before I got here. It was just so much work to get into this card. Let's move on to another under I was expecting to bet as well. These were the 2 unders that I was expecting to bet. And part of the reason why I didn't do it was because obviously I just had I had the Browns and Titans, and I was so confident in that under. And now these 2 teams are playing yet again against teams that aren't offensive juggernauts. And I just want to go right back to the well. I want to go right back to the well here in Bengals Titans. Let's take a look at this line history here for this one. We have the Titans at +2.5. It hasn't moved. +2.5 -106. Now, of course, this came out this morning at Pinnacle. They're very cautious, and that's where it is. +2.5 -106 with no movement. Let's get over to the total in this one, and that's what I want to be attacking. Now, of course, it's being bet towards the under, so I am a little late to the party. But Pinnacle still hanging the 42. It's only moved 10 cents. It isn't a real 42. It's -119 to the under. That's just what's up on my, my whatever sorry, it's too much information. We're going way too much information. You forget words. Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee, here for Bengals Titans. Titans 1-0 at home. Bengals 0-1 on the road. We just watched them last night. Bengals on a short week. Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. 81 Fahrenheit, 75 miles per hour. Let's get into the cash flow for this one. 78% of the tickets and 95% of the cash on the under. I mean, is it too blatant? Is it too blatant? The thing is that these low totals that are blatant have been going under. Ask the 25 points that the Patriots and Jets put up. The 74% of the tickets are on the Bengals and 54% of the cash. So bigger bets coming in on the Titans. Spenny Pennybomb says Tannehill isn't the guy he never was. Says why they still let this loser play is baffling. If you're going to lose anyway, why not let your guys you drafted play? Skydragon says bet Cincinnati -110 yesterday, figuring even if Burrow missed the game, he'd be available this Sunday. That was very smart. The Bengals come in off their first win of the season, a very underwhelming 19-16 victory at home over the Rams. They now head to Tennessee to face a very angry Titans group on a short week. Burrow was 26 of 49 for 259 yards and an interception. He looked much better. I mean, it's pretty easy to say. He did look limping at times, but he looked much better. Jamar Chase had his first breakout game of the year after 2 subpar efforts, caught 12 passes for 141 yards. We knew it was coming. I mean, A.J. Brown had the same thing. You knew it was coming. Mixon ran 19 times for 65 yards. This offense is still not running on all cylinders. I mean, we watched it closely last night. Burrow, isn't getting enough protection. They were just 5 of 17 on third down, and they only made one foray into the red zone. But they did hold on to the football for 36 minutes. The defense looked very strong. They held the Rams to just 1 of 11 on third down, 1 of 4 in the red zone. As a team, 6 sacks, and 10 quarterback hits. And Logan Wilson, whom I love, had 2 picks. Other than Burrow, this is a healthy group, as healthy as I remember them. The Titans coming off that embarrassing 27-3 loss at Cleveland. That's when I want a team. That's the problem. This is exactly when I want to back a team. Coming back home after being embarrassed, getting slapped in the face. Their offense was abysmal. We just talked about it. 6 first downs, 94 total yards. Fewest yards for the Titans since they relocated from Houston in 1997. Good God. Tannehill, 13 of 25 for 104 yards. Hopkins led receivers with 3 catches for 48 yards. He extended his streak of catching at least 1 pass to 148 games. Who cares? Chris Moore had 2 catches for 41 yards. The rest of the team had 8 catches for 15 yards. Derrick Henry completely shut down, 11 carries for 20 yards. Titans defense tried to keep the squad in it, but they were just on the field too much. I mean, they finished with 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. Secondary allowed Watson to go 27 of 33. And here it is. Here is the second team this past week that had 0 passes defended. 0. Browns went 6 of 13 on third down. Sean Murphy bunting song in concussion protocol. I mean, last thing I would want to do is have an under and not have him out on the field. Take it away for us here, Troy. Bengals Titans, Nissan Stadium.
Yeah, so I had a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Joe Yuko. He's probably out there in the chat somewhere. He sent me a stat on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's 1-7 in his career in weeks 1 and 2, and he's 24-12 in all the weeks following that. I mean, that this number has kind of been sticking in my head. He sent it earlier. I know he likes the Bengals when originally I started looking towards the Titans. But I think the Titans, I mean, this is going to be a reoccurring theme with the Titans. They're going to struggle versus good defenses in the NFL. And the Bengals defense bounced back. I mean, they were terrible up until this point. But they did play with a lot of intensity, and it was definitely a different feel towards the end of that game, especially for that defense. But you really can't say the same thing for the offense because they haven't looked right. Their pass blocking, PFF got them at 26th. Run blocking, PFF got them at 31st. They continue to struggle. Burrow, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick, only 2.9 yards per rush. And a wide receiver group that PFF has is 32nd in the NFL. That's goddamn last place. Here's a problem that I have with the Bengals. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't think it's that hard to look at your numbers and see this as an offensive coordinator. But the Bengals have only run 5 play action passes this season. Last year, they were definitely lower as a percentage of their total attempts, but they only ran 5 this year. That's the lowest in the NFL, and it's not even damn close. I just think that there might be bigger problems than I think with this Bengals team. And on the Titans side, I mean, there's not much to like about what we've been seeing with the Titans outside of their run defense. Their run defense has been elite. It has been for years. I mean, that's not a surprise. But yeah, this is definitely a spot where I don't think the Bengals looked very good in winning and they didn't cover. They pushed on the spread, but they didn't win. Or they won the game yesterday. I don't think they looked really good in doing so. And this is where you want to buy the Titans at home, divisional dog, off a loss. It just seems to be like a beautiful spot for the Titans. I was thinking about teasers, Jimmy. I know you don't like teasers, but I think that this might be a good spot to grab a teaser. I don't know if we could. What is it? Do we think this line's going to hit 3? Does anyone in the chat? Is this line going Titans +3, or is this going to stick at 2.5?
I don't see how it could get to 3, man.
I know. And if it did get to 3, it'd be like you don't really want it anymore.
I don't see how it could get to 3 after what we've seen from the Bengals. I really don't. But I know that Rainbow the God looking at the over, leaning to the over, but I still think that in that victory that the Bengals had, the reason why I knew I wanted to get in live, on the Bengals, was because of possession. I mean, that means so much to me. And you see it. If you have a team that's controlling time of possession, they're going to wear down the opposition. And 36 minutes, they held on to the ball here. I think this will be another spot that even, if the Bengals are rolling offensively, they're not going to be pushing it. They're going to just want to hold on to the ball for 35 plus minutes of this football game.
And they did. Yesterday, I was pissed off watching them milk the play clock down to 5 or less seconds every fucking play. I had Stafford's over. I was like, am I going to get there or what? Like I was getting frustrated because every play, and it started early too. This is a good point. And this also speaks to what Ragu's saying in the chat about the under. I mean, is it another one that's just too obvious? It can't possibly hit. It's
the obvious low totals are all they're cashing. They're cashing. I'm not going to be too nervous about it here.
You got 2 teams that can't score in the red zone. 2 teams that are decent on third down, on defensively good on third down, bad on offense. Oh man, it just seems so too obvious. I mean,
I'm going to move on it.
Let's go.
I'm going to move on the under 41. Is there anything that you think you're going to be making official in the next 24 hours on this one?
I'm going to move on the under because that was the original. So I scrolled down my sheet here, and the first pick I have is under 41 ? So yeah, I think I have enough here. Let's go.
I have under 41. In the totals that we've gone, I'd like to go back to them, but I believe that we're perfect on the totals that we both bet together.
Yeah,
and they've only been unders. So I'm going to move on that under as well. I'm going to move on that tonight. Not for me. So I said that there was only 2 unders that I wanted, and that's not fully true. I'm interested in another under right here with Rams Colts. And I don't know if I'm going to get to the window here in Rams Colts, but the reason why is because the Rams I want unders with teams that can get first downs but can't succeed in the red zone. So let's go. 1 p.m. Eastern, Los Angeles Rams 1-2, 1-1 on the road at the Indianapolis Colts, 2-1, 0-1 at home. We're at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. Let's get into the line history to get started here. for this one. The Colts they've quickly become my favorite team. And look, I hate Irsay as much as everybody else, and obviously the 49ers are my team, but having the over 6.5, watching them play, cashing with them against the Ravens, I'm on board. But the Rams and the Cardinals were supposed to be the two worst teams in the league, and they're, I almost said good. I mean, they're quality football teams.
Yeah.
And just one thing that I do is, just because I cash on something, I know that my bias is in play and that I'm going to want to go back, that my subconscious is going to want to go back to the well. And I try hard not to. I try really hard not to. But there has been a move towards the Colts -1 at -101 to -1 at -114. We'll probably get a better idea if we go to the money lines. Let's do that. On the money line here, I'm going to have to refresh this. Gotta switch over to money line. Let's take a second. Get over to the money line for this Colts Rams spot. You also have the Rams on that second road game. It's not easy. We know that, a lot of the reason why I hesitate to, fade the Packers is I like the fact that, they have 2 weeks in a row at home. It's tough to be on the road, extended times or extended periods. This is a 14-cent move to the Colts from -108 to -122. It got up to -124. There's been a couple cents of buyback. Let's get over to the total for this one. And we have, here we go. We have it's sitting at basically it's kind of all over the map, but it's clear that it's climbing. This opened up at 45. It got to 46. So it opened up this morning at 9:30 at 45. Then it gets to 46 3 hours later. And then an hour and 15 minutes after that, there's a 14-cent move to the over 46 -120. So obviously, I'm not going to sit here and get in the way of that. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this is all wrong. I'm going to bet the under at this point. But Sky Dragon says, yeah. He says 46.5. He says, oh, yeah, Jimmy, bet that under. It will be amongst my best bets. Sky Dragon was the integral piece of me being on the Colts Ravens under. I'd been sitting with it, and I wanted it. I knew I wanted it. And he was so bullish on it that I moved on it. And here he is again. And, that's important. That's very important for me to see that. Al Cervix says, is Richardson playing? That's the $1 million question. We'll get into that at this point. But, right now, week 2 of concussion protocol, I have no idea. I tried to look things up, but I can't begin to give. I don't know. But we know that he's not lost his starting spot, but we also know that he's young. And what do young guys do? They get worried when they see somebody performing in their job. Birdie says Colts money line here for him. Says Rams went back to LA, traveling again on a short week, and an issue at left tackle. That Rams left tackle is out, and that's Noteboom is in big trouble. Replacement numbers at left tackle are bad. Noteboom is such a big piece to Joe Noteboom, and they also have Alaric Jackson with a thigh injury, but Joe Noteboom is such a big piece to this offensive line. Let's get into it here, but let's take a look at the cash. So we've seen the movement to the over and the slight movement to the Colts. So let's see what we're going to get here when we take a look at this. We have 73% of the tickets and 70% of the cash is on the Rams, and it's moving to the Colts. Well, that appeals to me immediately. 40% of the tickets and 40% of cash on the under, it's moving to the over. That makes me nervous. Slatsy says, remember what your subconscious is. Yes. And for those of you who don't know that, I was taught at an early age that your subconscious is an asshole. It's going to say negative things. It's going to put you in bad situations. So yes, all of our subconscious are assholes. Rams are on a short week after their 19-16 loss at Cincy. You just heard from Birdie that they're traveling back home and then going back to Indy. They're clearly better than what people expected in the offseason. Stafford continues to get the most of his young skill players. Look at Troy betting on his yards over. against the secondary that's decent with the Bengals. 18 of 33 for 269 yards, 1 TD and 2 interceptions. Puka Nacua continued a strong start. Now, it wasn't ridiculous. It's not 25 catches in his first 2 games, but 5 catches for 72 yards. Higbee caught 5 for 71. Atwell caught 4 for 50 and a touchdown. They couldn't get the job done when it mattered most. 1 of 11 on third down, 1 of 4 in the red zone. The question is, can I trust those numbers? And I believe that I can. That Puka and Tutu are both receivers that are smaller, skilled receivers. And, they're not, those red zone threats. Are they that much bigger than the defensive backs they're going up against? Answer is no. So the lack of success on third downs means they can't keep their offense on the field. 24 minutes of possession. The defense was strong. They only allowed the Bengals to enter the red zone once. They held Cincy to 1 of 11 on third down. Aaron Donald looks as good as ever, despite being 32 years of age. 7 tackles, 2 for a loss, 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits. As a group, they finished with 2 sacks and 6 quarterback hits, and Akilo Weatherspoon had an interception. We talked about Noteboom and Alaric Jackson, 2 linemen hurt right now. Colts coming off that big 22-19 overtime win at Baltimore. Is this the spot that I want to back them? No, I don't. I think it's selling or buying high, and I don't want that. But hard for me to say that out loud because I do want that. Matt, not the situation, but I want the football team. Matt Gay was the star of the show. Troy already talked about it when we talked about the Ravens game. 4 field goals of over 50 yards, first kicker in NFL history to do that. Minshew replaced Anthony Richardson, 27 to 44, 227 yards, 1 touchdown. Zach Moss, that's the best game I've ever seen him play, and I watched him a lot in Buffalo. I mean, he was just magic. 30 carries for 122 yards, caught 2 passes for 23 yards, 1 touchdown. Taylor, who? I don't get Taylor. Fuck that. Michael Pittman caught 9 passes for 77 yards. Josh Downs, 3rd-round pick out of North Carolina, caught 8 passes for 57 yards. Zaire Franklin was all over the field. There's already pieces to this defense that I really like, but Zaire Franklin, 15 tackles, 1 sack. They finished with 4 sacks, held the Ravens to 6 of 16 on third down, only 2 entries into the red zone. Now the Ravens did cash both of them. Take it away for us here. This is a game I'm itching. Take it away.
Oh, this is another tough game, but I my instinct tells me to look towards the Rams to bounce back after a loss where they could have easily won. You got the Colts coming off a win outright as 8-point dogs. I mean, this is clear cut. I mean, this is right off the bat. I'm looking towards the Rams, but then the market environment got me off that real quick as all the bets, all the cash is on this Rams team and the line's moving towards the Colts. But at the same time, you look at some of those trends where dogs flip to favorites, and that's what has done at some books, and that doesn't turn out good for the market move, right? So that would be suggesting back the Rams. It's just so hard for me, especially without knowing who's playing quarterback for the Colts, Minshew or Richardson. I think after watching that Colts game, I'd rather have Richardson at quarterback. This Colts defense has been the biggest surprise to me. Run defense ranks 9th in the NFL per PFF, of course. Pass rush 8th in the NFL, but the coverage is 26th. And that's surprising to me because usually when you're getting pass rush, you got that higher grades of pass rush, you see a lot of correlation where most teams with a good pass rush have good coverage because those two work in tandem. However, that's not the case here. I mean, it's a lot easier to cover for 2.5 seconds than it is to cover for 3 seconds. So I think the Colts defensive backfield, the secondary, is probably their weakest link on their team. So maybe that's what I was thinking the Rams would be able to exploit. But after looking into it and seeing some of the Rams' advanced metrics and some of their advanced player grades, I can't do it. This defense, I think it's only a matter of a time before they get exposed with how good they've performed and how competitive they were through 3 weeks. To have a run defense that's rated 27th, pass rush 20th, coverage 32nd. Maybe that speaks volumes to coaching. I'm not sure what that tells me, that they were able to keep these games so competitive. But we've seen that Stafford getting sacked 6 times. And was he only sacked 1 time in the first 2 weeks? That's what I have on my note sheet. That just seems wrong. But yeah, if he's only sacked 1 time in the first 2 weeks, then sacked 6 times versus the Bengals, I just think that there's regression for this team, for this offensive line, for this defense. I don't know how they can keep these games close. And now that we're talking it out, I'm leaning towards the Colts.
I want the Colts. I guess I needed just to talk it out so that I could be comfortable with it. I immediately wanted the under and it moved to the over, and that scared me. Now that DG's on it, I'm going to take a closer look at it. I'm with it being pushed to the over right now. I don't feel like I'm forced to move on it at this point. But, I want to not know who's at quarterback for the Colts because McVay is an elite coach. And I want him to have to come up with two defenses badly. And I hated that Steichen announced that Richardson was out. Now, it didn't really hurt them, the Colts. But McVay is very good. And it would help me if he has to prepare for both of them because they're so different from each other.
Yeah, it's a complete different game plan. You can't prepare for two different quarterbacks like this. It's completely different, like you said. And if you look at their spray charts, you'll even tell on their spray charts how different they are as quarterbacks.
Caleb says we're one hit away from Stetson Bennett. I don't believe that's the case. I think he hit the booze. Didn't he? I think he's taken a little leave of absence, I believe. I remember. Maybe I was hammered when I read it, but I have a recollection of thinking that he's taking a leave of absence. Okay. So Rams, Colts. I want the Colts. And Birdie's saying if no boom's out, he's going to be on the Colts 100%. And I'm that he says, did the Rams travel back and forth? Birdie's saying that they did, and so is Gerald Jones. So yes. The under is still appealing to me, but I'm going to wait on that. Okay. Okay, my man. All right, and then Birdie says Shaq Leonard makes such a huge difference. Look, I'm waiting for him to not be there, and I think we need to take advantage of him being there because we know his back injury is real. Okay, let's move on. 1 p.m. Eastern, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at New Orleans Saints. I love seeing my card come together on this show, and it's very enjoyable. Beautiful.
I'm loving it. I like where we're at right now.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable. Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. Bucks 1-0 on the road. New Orleans 1-0 at home. Let's go into the line history here to get rolling. We're sitting at a 40.5. This opened up at 39.5. It's climbed. And it climbed immediately when it came out, 9:30 this morning. It climbed immediately. And the under 4.5, earlier tonight was the over was juiced. It's back to the under being juiced. So maybe it's gone, that threshold of 40 is too high for some gamblers, but it's moved 1 point to the over. Let's get into the point spread here for this one. And we are, let's move over here. We are sitting, too many games up here. We're sitting with the Saints -3 at -112. Bet Chris has them up at -120 with Will Hill. This was -120 here at Penny, but there's been 8 cents of buyback. This opened up at -115. So there's been a slight move towards the Buccaneers. From last night's game with Tampa, Philadelphia, it did not sour me on Tampa. It just made me understand a little stronger how good Philadelphia is.
Right.
That's all. So it's not soured me on Tampa. I'm not against backing Tampa, by any means. So I just want to get that out there. Let's take a look at the cash flow here for this spot. It's really fun watching these games so closely and then sitting with them and seeing how it changes. 46% of the tickets and 96% of the cash on the under, and yet it's gone from 39.5 to 40.5. That's a little strange. And then we have, 62% of the tickets and 82% of the cash on the Buccaneers. That's a bit of a surprise, but obviously it's based on who's playing at quarterback for the Saints. Buccaneers coming on a short week after getting beaten up in every facet of the game by the Eagles in a 25-11 home loss. The Eagles led 25-3 by the time the Bucs finally got into the end zone on Baker Mayfield's 1-yard touchdown throw to Mike Evans. 2-point conversion made that a 14 point lead with 9:22 remaining. The Bucs offense only managed 174 total yards. Baker Mayfield 15-25 for 146 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Mike Evans caught 5 passes for 60 yards and a touchdown, but all I remember are the drops from him. He made some big catches late when the game didn't matter. Chris Godwin was held to 3 catches for 32 yards. Rashad White struggled, and that's who he really is. I shouldn't have got caught up in his performance last week. 14 carries for 38 yards, caught 3 for 24. They were unable to get pressure on Hurts. Lavonte David had the lone sack. He also had 15 tackles. As a team, they only managed 4 quarterback hits, and this usually stout run defense couldn't stop Swift at all. The Eagles, 203 rush yards. They couldn't get the Eagles off the field. The Eagles won the possession battle 38-55 to 21-05. The defense allowed the Eagles to go 10 of 16 on third down, but strengthened in the red zone, which is important. It's important. They held the Eagles to 1 of 5 in the red zone. Devin White and D. Delaney had picks, and White is not listed in any injury issues, but we watched him re-aggravate his groin, didn't we? I thought he could have taken that back to the house if he didn't, but he's not listed anywhere. I don't know why. Carlton Davis with the toe and Kalijah Cansey are missed last game, and we have to wait till tomorrow to see if they're going to be available here. They're not on the IR or anything. Saints coming off that heartbreaking 18-17 loss at Green Bay. They're up 17-0 going to the fourth. Green Bay became the third team in the past 30 years to win after being shut out 17-0 or worse through 3 quarters. Derek Carr got knocked out by Rashawn Gary, not knocked out, but knocked out of the game with the shoulder, suffered an AC joint sprain. He's week to week. So Carr completed 13 of 18 passes for 103 yards and 1 touchdown. You don't think Carr is good until you see Jameis Winston out there. And then you realize, maybe Carr's okay. The Saints did not score a single point after Carr left, and he's not being ruled out, but I'm certain. I don't want to say certain. I don't expect him to be playing. But there is good news. Kamara will return from his 3-game suspension. That's huge because Jamal Williams is out, and Kendra Miller made his season debut, and he wasn't bad. Tony Jones Jr., I think we're asking a little too much of him. He's not a bad player. He's better than the practice squad guy. 8 carries for 31 yards, caught 4 for 21. Olave is a monster. He's just very good. 8 catches for 104 yards. Michael Thomas 6 for 50, and Rashid Shaheed showed that speed, and that's just elite speed. 76 yards, punt return to the house. But he didn't record a catch. He was targeted twice. Saints offense only produced 252 yards, was 4-14 on third down. The defense couldn't apply enough pressure on Jordan Love when it counted and couldn't get stops in the fourth quarter. They finished with just 1 sack and 3 quarterback hits. Lonnie Johnson had a pick. Alontae Taylor, he was the talk of the game up until the fourth quarter. Paul Snobito, out, and Alontae Taylor looked excellent. 5 tackles, 2 for a loss, 1 sack, 5 passes defended. And they lost Cesar Ruiz. He's in concussion protocol, so they need him. They need the right guard in. Take it away for us here, Troy. Next spot on the board for us, Bucs Saints.
Was like, after watching that Bucs Eagles first half, I was getting ready to come out here and tell you Baker Mayfield outplayed Jalen Hurts. That ended up not being the case, and it's hard to say because a couple of plays didn't go Baker's way, and he ended up looking like, or maybe it's manipulation or perception, that he looked like old Baker, compounding mistakes. But Mike Evans dropped a bunch of passes. To your point that you said, Jimmy, he made some great plays in the second half. They needed him in the first half to keep him in the game, and he did not come up with them. Could have caught a touchdown. Dropped the ball on 2 first-down opportunities, and that forced him to punt. It's just 3 points, 3.5 points. It just seems like I'm looking towards the Bucs. I'm not really looking towards the Saints in this spot. I think that the Saints had a bit of a cupcake schedule early in the season with the Titans, the Panthers, and the Packers. And I think that some of the ratings that they got are generous despite being completely bad. Their pass block ranks 23rd, run block ranks 27th. And like I said, this is going to be an easy matchup for the Bucs compared to what they just played against in the Eagles. The Saints' inability to rush the ball. And I think that what surprised me and impressed me about the Saints is their coverage, their secondary. They had some incredible plays, were able to cover at an elite level. There's no doubt about it. Jordan Love did make some great throws to just completely void out how good their coverage was. But this is the lowest rated unit. This is by far, in my opinion, the strong suit for the Saints with Lattimore, Matthew, and Taylor. I don't trust the Saints offense. If I see famous Jameis as the quarterback for the Saints, I'll be on the Bucs.
Joe Jones saying Lattimore versus Evans hate each other. Lattimore pissed me off. in that game. There's a couple spots where I was like, it just didn't seem locked in. But he usually bounces back from spots like that.
Yeah,
I do not think that Carr is going to be there. So now this backfired for me last year. It backfired on me a couple times when I didn't think a quarterback was going to be in there. And that's so basically we're gambling on an injury here. And I don't mind that. It's no real different than gambling on a game. I think I move on the Bucks and the under this evening. Now, Jameis is not going to help unders because there's pick sixes and possibilities like that available. I mean, Birdie, what a salient point by Birdie saying, where was it? Here. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Here. Well, watching Jameis look so unprepared in the system that he's been in for 4 years almost tells me that I want Jameis in there and we'll bet the Bucks money line. And that was true. That was true. And I'm going to say again, I think the Bucks are exactly what we want from in a gambling perspective because they're predictable. And that's important. Baker Mayfield's doing everything he can to not throw picks. He's got 2 excellent wide receivers that are healthy right now in Evans and Godwin. And he's got a running game that isn't very good. And he's got
and the Saints strong suit on their defense outside of their secondary. They got Granderson and Jordan on the edges. But, the Bucks are great at the tackle position. Like, they could counter that easily. Yeah. It's the Bucks. Fuck.
Yeah, I didn't realize this, but it's the Bucks and it's the under. I didn't realize this.
Do we wait for Jameis to be ruled in, or did we just assume he's it? Yeah.
No,
I kind of figured, but.
Now, I don't think that – I think that you have to come up with a game plan with Taysom Hill at quarterback, personally. I mean, that's what I would do. But even if Taysom Hill is at quarterback, the red zone issues rear their ugly head. So and we just saw the only good thing the Buccaneers did in that game is they lock in the red zone. That the defense is strong, holding the Eagles back in the red zone. So Rand says Bucks are under. I think both. So beautiful. This is great. Now I'm almost a little worried with the amount of action. And then obviously week 2, all the games went over. In week 3, we cashed all our unders just like we did in week 1, and that stuff does make it uncomfortable for me. DG thinking that these numbers are straight, and he's passing on this one. Darren Turner looking at the under as well. Caleb saying Todd Bowles can stop the run as well. And Harold Williams says Bucks win this game without Carr in there for the Saints. All right, let's roll on. So we'll see if you're going to move on the Bucks. Is that something that you would do in the next 12 hours, or is it something you'd
I'm looking to bet it right now as we're talking this out. I actually made a few bets since we started that we could follow up on at the end.
Let's do that. Let's move on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Washington Commanders 2-1, 1-0 on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles. 3-0, 1-0 at home. Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 71 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 10 miles per hour. In sports, you can tell how good a team is with the way they continue to win and they're not playing their best. And that's just in any sport, always works like that. And that's what Philadelphia is doing right now. Now, do you want them as this big of a favorite? I mean, things get trickier and dicier as they get bigger favorites. The Commanders opened up here at plus 8.5 this morning at minus 106 at Pinnacle, and that's moved 8 cents to plus 8.5 minus 114. And you see other books hanging 8s now. Let's go over to the total for this one. Here we go. Move over to the total for Commanders Eagles. We're sitting at a 44.5. This opened up at 45.5 and it dropped to 44.5. Let's go over to the cash flow for this one. We have 63% of the tickets and 55% of the cash on the Eagles. And from a total scenario, we have 44% of tickets and 89% of cash on the under. 71 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 10 miles per hour at Lincoln Financial. The Commanders come in off the embarrassing 37-3 home loss to the Bills. And they got beaten in every facet of the game. Troy already touched on those first few drives. They were really moving the ball comfortably. Then things fell apart. And how will Sam Howell deal with his first professional loss and 4 interceptions? And his offensive line looks awful. He was running for his life all game long. He got sacked 9 times and hit 15 times. Curtis Samuel caught 2 passes for 54 yards. Scary Terry caught 6 for 41. Brian Robertson Jr. ran 10 times for 70 yards. But the Commanders were 1 of 9 in third down, 0-1 on fourth down, and 0-2 in the red zone. And then Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and Chase Young. You say those 4 names out loud and you think, good God, I mean, is that the scariest group in the league? 0 sacks and 1 quarterback hit. They got no pressure on Allen. How do they handle this? They're going to hear it all week. Everyone's going off on them, going off on the 4 of them, and wondering if Howell can handle the pressure. But that was just an embarrassment of those spectacular defenders. Kendall Fuller had a pick, and Logan Thomas inactive after being concussed on his TD catch. Hoping to have him back. He's a very smart football player. He's somebody you want on the field. Eagles coming off that short week. We saw them win easily 25-11 at Tampa. Jalen Hurts didn't look great, but 23 of 37, 277 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. There was some mistakes made, but there's nothing wrong with having mistakes early in the year if you're an elite football team. He's 20-1 over his past 21 regular season games. And DeAndre Swift is electric. I mean, he's just wow. 175 yards career high 2 weeks ago. Last week, 6 carries for 130 yards. Is that right? 6? Is that right? Imagine that should say 16, but I don't have it in front of me. 100. I know he ran for 130 yards, caught 1 pass for 8 yards. What was it?
16.
16, yeah. I figured I was missing a 1 there. A.J. Brown had the breakout game he was looking for, caught 9 passes for 131 yards. Eagles put up 472 total yards while they only allowed 174. I didn't realize that when I was watching the game. For whatever reason. I don't know why, how I didn't realize that there was that kind of dominance. I know the score was 25-3, but I didn't realize that it was that dominant. The Eagles were 10 of 16 on third down. Their only weakness was the red zone. They were just 1 of 5. We've talked about that for a couple different teams here that they're still struggling in the red zone. But they controlled the game. They had the ball for 38 minutes, 55 seconds. The defense looked so much stronger than last week. I mean, James Bradbury and Reed Blankenship in, and what do? Bradbury recovers a fumble. Blankenship has a pick to go with 7 tackles. Blankenship is a dog, man. He's a junkyard dog. Front 7 doesn't seem to be getting the same amount of pressure as last year. I think it's a pretty easy statement, but we're only 3 games in, and last year they were, record-breaking, basically. The defense still looks very good. As a team, they finished with 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. Quez Watkins, Boston Scott inactive. And then Justin Evans left the game in the first quarter with a neck injury. And, this is a team missing Avonte Maddox. I know we're trying to find holes in a great football team. And if Justin Evans can't play and there's no Maddox, we know that. I mean, are we starting to find a hole in the secondary? Well, it doesn't look like that with Bradbury and Blankenship back. Take it away for us here, Troy. Commanders, Eagles.
Yeah, when I first started looking into this game, just Howell's performance versus a competent defense was embarrassing, to say the least. And the performance that they had versus the Broncos lost all its steam when they got stomped by 50 points against the Dolphins. But Howell drove his team into the red zone 3 out of the first 4 possessions. That resulted in 0 points. Then the bottom absolutely fell out on the friggin' Commanders. I watched every play of that game, unfortunately. I couldn't keep my eyes off it after they were down by 30 points. I had to keep watching, force myself into the pain that I chose for myself. That's really what happened. But the sharp side, undoubtedly, is the Commanders in this game. The Commanders, their offensive line is actually getting graded out in PFF. I mean, pretty highly, middle of the pack, which is surprising to me because they're basically saying that the 19 sacks on Howell this year are Howell's fault, not the offensive line. That's kind of what that's telling me. One of the worst teams, I think LJ pointed this out. One of the biggest bolded metrics I have on my sheet here is that they're the worst team in the NFL when it comes to third down conversions. When you adjust for down and distance, I think actually in third down conversion they're second worst on third down conversion rate. Good offenses, like I said earlier, with the Bengals team. Good offenses use play action. The Bengals, they use 5. The Commanders, 5 play actions on the season. I mean, I don't know how you could run an offense successfully without running play action at least 5 times per game. And now we're getting 5 times in 3 games. I mean, it just smells like something's wrong with this offense. And on the defensive side, I really don't have any concerns. I watched the defense versus the Bills. I thought it was a respectable outing for, against Buffalo, despite some of the shortfalls that this team had in general. I thought the defense looked solid. But once I seen the Commanders get completely uprooted by the Bills, I knew my Bucs action was in danger. And sure enough, that line, the line movement was almost mirroring each other perfectly. But the Bucs line started fading back towards the 6, and they got hammered. And I think those were two corollary spots that happened. The Eagles team, man, this was a team I love because they won me so much freaking money last year. I have all respect for this team. Why do I love them? They do two things at an elite level. Elite's an understatement. They run the ball they're the best rushing team in the NFL, and they defend the rush the best in the NFL. And this year, they're not running the ball enough. I think there's a little bit of a gap there, and I think maybe they're trying to figure out what they can do or what their potential is with Justin Hurts throwing the ball around the field. But in my opinion, they don't run the ball enough. They blow defensive lines off the ball. It's just what they do. They did it for 2 years now. They continue to do it. 100% the best rushing team in the NFL, and I think that down the stretch here, we're going to see that ground and pound, hard-nosed offense. I think that they're just kind of testing their limits a little bit. This Eagles team is going to be in form down the stretch here. And well, it's too late to get in on futures probably, but I think that this Eagles team, they still rank at the top of my personal power rankings. I know they do on a couple other respectable people's power rankings, but this game specifically, I think the sharp side is the Commanders. I would not be taking the Eagles on the spread. If I didn't have the recency bias and watch every play and, lost the triple up on the Commanders, maybe I'd be on the Commanders this week, to be honest. Everyone has these problems as a gambler. That shouldn't be a problem for me, right? I should be back on the Commanders probably. I just can't do it, man. I just can't do it. So to me, it's an Eagles teaser spot or stay away.
Yeah. Sky Dragon agreeing with the Eagles teaser spot. Birdie says World loved Washington week 1. World hates Washington week 2. World loves Washington week 3. Only game they covered was week 2. He says, I suspect the world will hate Washington week 4. So he bet Washington. Harold Williams looking at Eagles first half. That was such an easy casher. Such an easy casher last week. Big shout out to Burgundy Bets. Thank you for the dono, my man. Thank you for thinking of us. That means a ton to us. DG says Washington came back against an awful Denver team. They looked awful against Arizona and were pathetic against Buffalo. They aren't good. I'm so lucky that I got through the first week of Survivor with Washington. I didn't realize how horribly risky that week 1 bet was. But Commanders, Eagles, there's nothing here that really appeals to me, other than backing Philly, which I don't know if I want to do. So then would I look at a Commanders first half team total under or something in that regard? And with that interception to White there, with, I know it's just like, a mistake that happens early in the season, but I don't want to be in a situation where a misread there, where I don't know who is at fault, if it was a receiver running the wrong route or what, but I just don't want something like that to screw me on the team total. But so I guess at this point, nothing is appealing to me, but I imagine Philadelphia is going to beat up on the Commanders again, but I just don't want to,
there's a lot of Commanders. Sorry, man.
No, it's all good.
There's a lot of these divisional home dogs. I will probably end up with the teaser, with the Eagles in the teaser, with one of these divisional dogs that there's so many of this week. I'm not sure who that's going to be yet, but if you follow me on Twitter, I'll definitely be posting about that.
Well, let's roll on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, Minnesota Vikings at Carolina Panthers, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. 73 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 10 miles per hour. We had the Chargers. I wasn't as heavy on the Chargers as you were. Birdie, our guy, now member of We Be Pubbin. I know you've been before, Birdie, but thank you, my friend. Thank you for the support. It means a ton to us. Vikings, Panthers, Bank of America Stadium, Charlotte, North Carolina. The fade the Vikings train, the under in the win total is glorious. Having the Chargers cash last week was extremely important. And I immediately want the Panthers. Immediately. And I know what's going on, and that's why I don't bet them, and I need to talk about it here because I know it's just my subconscious just telling me that the Vikings are shit and I'm a great capper. So let's go into the spread here to get rolling in Vikings Panthers. The total first is up to 46. got up to 46. This opened up 44. So we have a 2-point move to the over. It's not a real 46. It's minus 118 to the under at this point. Let's get into the spread here. And the spread for this spot is sitting at 3.5. I like it. This opened up at 3 though, and the +3 initially was juiced to minus 115, and it wasn't a quick move away from them either. I guess, yeah, it wasn't really. It was like 14 hours it took to move away from them. But now we have 3.5s on the board, so clearly people backing the Vikings. Spenny says he's on the Panthers again. Surprise, surprise. Birdie took Minnesota money line and some alt spreads. And let's take a look at the cash flow then here in this one and discuss whether I should move or stay off. 26% of the tickets, 35% cash on the under. And so the market's moving towards the over. Then we have 69% of the tickets, 75% of cash on the Vikings. So, certainly here, just like in the game we just spoke about with the Commanders, I don't want to sell the Vikings here low. And that's why I have not moved on it. Only 4 teams since 1990 have made the playoffs after an 0-3 start. We have 2 of them here. Vikings come in off that 28-24 loss at home to the Chargers. Cousins 32 of 50 for 367 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. The 5th player in history with at least 325 passing yards and 2 touchdowns in his first 3 games of the season. The 5th player in history to do that, and they're 0-3. 475 total yards for the Vikes offense. And 414 on third down, 1 of 4 in the red zone. Jefferson had a monster game, 7 catches for 149 yards and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson caught 8 for 78. He did lose a fumble. The Vikings have lost 7 times this season. The Vikings have fumbled 7 times this season and lost them all. Jordan Addison caught 6 passes for 52 yards, and Alexander Mattison had his first strong game of the season. Ran 20 times for 93 yards, caught 5 passes for 32 yards. The defense, again, couldn't get stops or pressure Herbert. 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits. The -7 turnover ratio is worst in the league. And they have issues. They have injury issues. Garrett Bradbury out for the 2nd straight game. I know that his grading has been poor in the last year and a half or so, but I do think that's all about the back injury. I think that maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that he's a better center than he's shown. And then Marcus Davenport inactive again. I mean, that was an important contract. Danielle Hunter is the only guy you got to worry about. And the idea was that you get Davenport out there and then, you have someone else to worry about other than Danielle. Josh Medlis, a great shoulder injury, left the safety, and it's an existing injury, so a big chance that he's not in the lineup. Panthers coming up at 37-27 loss at Seattle. Dalton 34-58 for 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Young, was ruled out week 3 because of the ankle injury, and we don't have an update, but he's still called week to week. That has not changed at this point. Thielen, 11 catches for 145 yards and a touchdown. I like seeing the old timer, show out like that. DJ Shark, also, I like seeing him coming back from injury. 4 passes. He caught for 86 yards and a touchdown. Miles Sanders did not look good. 24 yards rushing on 9 carries and a touchdown. Now, he did catch 5 passes for 38 yards. As a team, they rushed for just 44 yards on 14 carries. That's not enough. But, they finished 10 of 19 on third down, 2 of 2 in the red zone. And, imagine if they weren't dealing with they had 8 false starts. 8 false starts in Seattle. Ekwonu, their left tackle, 4. Taylor Morton, 2. They had 13 penalties. And it was their first game without their defensive captain, Shaq Thompson. So they couldn't get enough stops. Seattle put up 425 yards. They did hold the Seattle to 3 of 13 on third down, 3 of 6 in the red zone. And look, I don't know why they didn't give Brian Burns the money he wanted. I don't know why they didn't. 4 tackles, 3 for a loss, 1 sack, 3 quarterback hits. As a team, they finished with 2 sacks and 8 quarterback hits. Deion Johnson had an interception. Pinheiro is, he missed a 55-yarder, and that 55-yarder he missed stopped that string of 25 straight field goals. I mean, he's a great kicker. That was the 2nd longest streak in franchise history. They lose Jonathan Mingo, their 2nd-round pick, wide receiver, to a concussion. He's in protocol. Safety Xavier Woods suffered a hamstring injury. We don't know the extent of it yet. And then cornerback C.J. Henderson had an ankle injury. If Xavier Woods and C.J. Henderson aren't there, then yes, this isn't over. Maybe this isn't over. Maybe this is an over that needs to be bet right now. Maybe it does. And I didn't realize that till I broke it all down. Take it away for us here, Troy. Vikings, Panthers.
My first instinct looking at this game is just like you, Jimmy. I mean, it's Panthers, right? I mean, I thought I'd be on the Panthers already when I first started capping this game. The Vikings obviously are on my fade list. I mean, they're up there just with all the other teams last year, the Giants and all the teams that were top of the luck ratings. But according to the luck ratings this year, the Vikings have been the unluckiest team so far year to date. Vikings last year, 11-0 in one-score games. This year, 0-3. But do you want to get in the business of laying 3 points, laying any points at all with the Vikings on the road? I'm not quite sure that's the right move. The Vikings offense, I think, outside of the fumbles, has been what I expected. The defense, I think, is overperformed for what they got. And I think this is huge dividends. This just tells me how much coaching is important, because Brian Flores, somehow he's competing in these games with this ass of a defensive roster. And they are ass. Don't get it twisted. So far on the season, they blitzed 63% of the snaps. They do that to mask bad defenders that are on their roster. And they blitzed the Chargers 39 times. That's like 85% of the total dropbacks for Herbert. I mean, that's just insane to blitz 39 times in one game. I mean, some teams haven't blitzed 39 times all season. Here's Brian Flores blitzing 39 times in one damn game. The Panthers, I have to retract what I said earlier. There's one game I haven't watched, and it's the Panthers-Seahawks. It's something I have to go back and revisit. But I do know that based on the advanced metrics, Dalton threw the most bad or poor passes in the NFL in week 3 with 11 of them. And my biggest problem, like I talked about with the vertical threats and the ability to blow the top off the defense and take your deep shots. I mean, who do the Panthers have to do that? DJ Chark? It's the most explosive receiver. I mean, that's laughable. So in this game, I guess if put a gun in my head, I'm taking the Panthers plus the points, but I have no interest in betting it.
I am going to bet the over. This will be my first over on this week's card. I think there's going to be points here.
First over of the season.
Yeah, I've had I think some team totals, right? Maybe just
one,
team but you're right.
Right.
Generally speaking, I'm 9 of every 10 bets on the total is no under for me. So that's just how I do things. I find it easier that way. But this is going to be an over. I'm going to take the over on this spot, and I like it. I think it's going to be fun. And now I want Woods and Henderson out of the lineup. I definitely do. I like it. This was fun. Okay, the over for me here. I'm going to bet that tonight. Vikings, Panthers over. And by the way, of the we are talking about the amount of blitzes. The New York Giants blitzed the Niners 33 out of 39 dropbacks. 33. The Giants and Purdy just dominated within it. We'll talk about that in that game. But let's go. So the Giants defense, Vikings defense, those were the 2 luck box teams last year, and they're both having to over blitz because they're so bad. All right, let's roll. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, Pittsburgh Steelers at the Houston Texans, Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas. I find the Pittsburgh Steelers an extremely enjoyable football team to cap, and their defense is so special, and their offense has been so bad. Going up against the upstart Houston Texans, and D'Amico Ryan's one of my favorite players in the sport. Let's get to work here. Steelers, Texans, will go into the line history first. This is sitting at a 3 for Houston. +3 at +102 was what it opened. It's now +3 -104. This got to +3 at -110. There's been buybacks. Still 6 cents of movement towards the Houston Texans. Let's get into the total in this one. The total will be our next stop here. It's sitting at 42. This opened up at 41. I know it opened up at 40.5 at some other books, but this one opened up at 41 at Pinnacle, and now it's at 42. So we have a move to the over, very slight move to the Houston Texans. Birdie already bet Pittsburgh moneyline and alt spreads. So let's get into the cash flow here for this spot. We have 53% of the tickets and 64% of the cash on the Houston Texans. On the total side of things, you have 63% of the tickets and 89% of cash on the over. Sky Dragon's going to be on Houston. Birdie's going to be on Pittsburgh. Let's break it down. Steelers come in off a 23-18 win at Las Vegas. Again, they had difficulty moving the ball. They've only had 3 drives reach the red zone all season long. 3 drives from this Pittsburgh Steelers team has reached the red zone. Kenny Pickett, 16 and 28, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He also ran 3 times for 11 yards. Pickens caught 4 passes for 75 yards. He's a spectacular wide receiver. I dream of what he would be capable of doing with a competent quarterback, and maybe Kenny Pickett becomes that quarterback before he's done, but he's not there yet.
A competent coordinator, huh?
Oh, Canada.
Jeez.
Ooh. Calvin Austin caught 2 passes for 72 yards and a touchdown. Najee Harris had 19 carries for 65 yards. Minka all over the field, 11 tackles. Levi Wallace, 6 tackles, 2 picks. Patrick Peterson, 5 tackles, 1 pick. I love these guys. I mean, Minka and Patrick and TJ Watt. I mean, how long have we been cheering for these guys, man? TJ Watt, 2 of the Steelers, 4 sacks, 3 of their 8 quarterback hits. He's a beast. Raiders were the only team that hadn't allowed a sack in the first 2 weeks of the year, and they got lit up. They held the Raiders to 4 of 13 on third down. This defense is fun to watch. It's more fun to watch the Steelers defense than it is to watch their offense. Texans come in off D'Amico Ryan's first victory as a head coach in the NFL. 37-17 win over the Jags. 5th straight time they've beaten them in Jacksonville. 10 of their last 11 meetings, the Texans have beaten the Jags. Stroud, 20 of 30 for 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran 3 times for 14 yards. First player in NFL history with 906 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions through his first 3 games. Thank God we don't need to watch Davis Mills out there anymore. Tank Dell set the franchise record for receiving yards by a rookie. 5 catches for 145 yards. No other receiver caught for more than 34 yards, but they have them. Devin Singletary ran 9 times for 41 yards. Damian Pierce ran 14 times for 31 yards and a touchdown. I'm waiting for Pierce to step up. They need him so bad. The defense held the Jags to 5 of 13 on third down and allowed them into the red zone just twice. Shaquille Griffin into the starting lineup because Derek Stingley's hamstring injury. He was all over the field, obviously. Rebenga. Obviously, he despises the Jags. And, the Texans still need more pressure on opposing quarterbacks. 0 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. Blake Cashman had a pick. And that Andrew Beck kickoff return, 85 yards for a TD, was fun to watch. He is the heaviest player in NFL history to return a kickoff for a touchdown, 255 pounds. Will Anderson became the first Houston rookie to block a field goal since J.J. Watt did in 2011. As much as I am interested in this game, I can't sit here and tell you that I've got an angle here that I'm expecting to get paid with. The fact that immediately Birdie says he's on Pittsburgh and Skydragon says he's on Houston, that I get it. I get it. Maybe you can illuminate a spot or an angle for us. Take it away for us, Troy. Steelers, Texans.
Those are 2 guys I really wouldn't want to go up against. So it's like, there's another one, pick your poison. But just looking at the Texans' increase in some of their player grades and their positional rankings, Texans went from the 24th best pass blocking team last week to the 20th. That's improvement. And the 25th run blocking to the 12th in run blocking category. I just thought that was interesting. I thought I should look that up because I noticed, now that I'm looking back at this game, sometimes it's a lot of work, right? So just kind of come back and comparing what was the movement there. Their offensive line looked a lot better, and that's still without Laramie Tunsil. So we should expect that to get better. Last week, I heard so many people, so many cappers, so many content creators talking shit about my guy, CJ Stroud, as he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. And most of them didn't give any metrics to back it up, to be honest. But I loved hearing it because it just made me so excited for my action on the Texans last week. But this kid, CJ Stroud, he got better from week 1 to week 2. And in week 3, he was the top-rated quarterback in the NFL per PFF. This kid clearly has the poise to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He got sacked 0 times last game. And I think Jimmy Ward being added back into that defensive lineup, I mean, I think the world of Jimmy Ward because I went up against him individually, one-on-one, and seeing how freak of an athlete this kid is. So I think him being out there makes a huge difference. I want to continue back in the Texans. Only problem now is now we're talking about a 3-point spread at home, and they're a public darling all of a sudden. I guess the Texans smack up the other public darling of the Jaguars, and now everybody wants the freaking Texans. I don't know what that means. But yeah, looking at the Steelers team, I mean, they've been unimpressive, especially on the offensive side. And the luck rankings, I talked about them a little bit in the last game, but I think there's something to that because you see these luckiest teams in the NFL and what they're doing this year. Look at the Giants. Look at the Vikings. Look what they're doing, man. They were lucky last year, and that's what the Steelers are looking like they are this year, with the worst offensive line in the NFL at this point. I know they But this is supposed to be adjusted for the defense, right? And they still are ranking out as the worst offensive line in the NFL. Pickett only completed 57% of his passes versus a shitty secondary. The Raiders' defensive secondary is bad. Don't get it twisted. And another solid outing by this defense. But, I mean, you watch Jimmy Garoppolo freaking throw it off his back foot and just launch it up in the air. I mean, it's pretty easy to play defense against. Now, okay, their pass rush is elite. I know the Steelers' defense is elite. But the Texans, I think that this is pretty surprising to find that they are the third best team on third down conversion rate in the NFL. Stroud, like I said, is getting better each game. He's going to be better with Laramie Tunsil mixed in. I think I know you probably touched on it when I was out. Do we think Tunsil's going to play this week?
I actually thought that he was going to be in last week. So
did I.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, I think he's going to be in, but, you know, I already have made that mistake once. And so I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big piece. If I wanted to bet on the Texans in this game, I need to know Laramie Tunsil's going out there and guarding the blind side for my guy CJ. But the defense for the Texans, this is clearly a bend but don't break defense. D'Amico knows how weak this roster is defensively. I think he's done a good job masking some of the issues they've had. But I think one of the big standouts and a guy I want to start talking about more is Blake Cashman. This guy's outstanding in coverage, man. This guy, going back and watching the film, I've seen his PFF rating in the mid to high 90s on pass coverage, and I go back and watch him. This kid's every bit as good as what they rated him. The question is, can the Texans protect against Pittsburgh? I'm going to be watching this line closely all week, but I'm not moving it at this point.
This is a tough spot. If I was forced to make a bet right now, it would be on Houston, but I don't feel. I still feel like I need more time with this Texan squad here, but I like them. And
I'm starting to consider futures on them to win the division, but it's now or never.
Yeah, you'd have to pull the trigger now. I mean, the Texans win total was the same as the Colts, right? It was 6.5, I believe, right? And so
6.5.
I could have gotten both. And at one point I thought I had both of them, but I only have the Colts at 6.5 here. I don't have the Texans win total. I'm interested in this spot, but it's going to require more study at this point. So let's roll on. That concludes 1 p.m. action. Leaves us with 5 games left. Let's attack. 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Las Vegas Raiders 1-2, 1-1 on the road at Los Angeles Chargers 1-2, 0-1. We're at SoFi in Inglewood. There's my guy Mally Mal in the house. Talk about the line history here for this one, and we have this total at 47.5, where it opened at Pinnacle. I know other books opened it higher before the games had completed. From a point spread situation here, I was a little taken aback at how big the Chargers were favorites here. -6 at -104. It hasn't moved. I was a little surprised. This is not a complete football team in the Chargers, and Staley can't be trusted. 54% of tickets, 61% of cash on the under. And from a spread situation, you have 23% of tickets on the Raiders and 58% of cash. When I'm surprised at a line, I usually want to back the other side, but I don't want the Raiders, and I'm waiting for the Chargers to show out. I just don't know why their defense is so bad. Go over to, we just did the cash flow. So let's roll. Raiders coming off a disappointing 23-18 home loss to the Steelers for some inexplicable reason. Down 8 with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left. McDaniels decides to kick a field goal. And I despise Staley. The idea that a head coach in the NFL can't comprehend that situation is appalling. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling, and
It makes you question things, because that's the most incompetent decision I've ever seen. If I was an owner, I'd fire his ass on the spot.
You'd have to. I mean, I would expect, and I was saying this last night, I would expect a 10-year-old to understand the situation mathematically.
Right.
And if a 10-year-old didn't, I'd be pretty disappointed in them. And I would explain it to them, and I would, so now we have an NFL head coach who can't understand the situation with 2:22 left in the game, down 8 points. Now we were all rejoicing, drinking Kraken and laughing and cashing our under. So we had a lot of fun with it, but I'm still left completely gobsmacked that somebody could have this high paying job and not be able to understand very simple mathematic situations. Jimmy G finished 28 of 44 for 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks, and he's now in concussion protocol. We were calling him spaghetti legs. I can't believe he got up from that, what looked like we wouldn't see him again for the rest of the year. But it's the concussion issue that he's dealing with now. Devontae Adams caught 13 passes for 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Myers caught 7 for 85. That's a nasty one, too, Devontae and Jacoby, and especially Jacoby Myers now being the wide receiver, looking like the wide receiver that we kind of thought he would be in New England, which he was unable to do. Josh Jacobs ran 17 times for 62 yards, caught 3 passes for 18. The offense was just 4 of 13 on third down. The defense couldn't get enough pressure. Max Crosby had the squad's lone sack and 2 of their 5 quarterback hits. They let the weak Steelers offense go 6 of 15 on third down and put up 333 total yards. How many games are the Steelers going to put up 300 plus total yards this year? From what I've seen, I would say 3 or 4, but the Raiders let them do it. Curtis Bolton injured a knee, linebacker. I tried to get more information on it. I couldn't today. The Chargers come in off a much-needed 28-24 victory at Minnesota. As always, Brandon Staley did everything he could to cost the team the win. He went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 24 with 1 minute and 47 seconds remaining. That does a bunch of different things here. It also tells your defense that you have no trust in them whatsoever. He trusted a guy in Joshua Kelly who had 11 carries for 12 yards. Like, if you're going to make that decision, okay, well, what's your play? And his play is to give it to Josh Kelly, who's getting stomped on every time he has the ball. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, the ineptness of these two assholes on either side, McDaniels and Staley. Herbert was excellent once again, 40 of 47 for 405 yards, 3 touchdowns. Set the franchise record with 213 consecutive attempts without an interception. Second fastest NFL player to hit 15,000 passing yards. Mahomes got there in 49 games, took Herbert 52. Keenan Allen was an absolute monster, caught 18 passes for 215 yards, threw the 49-yard touchdown pass to Mike Williams on the trick play. Of course, we were waiting for this to happen. We know what's going to happen with these two wide receivers. Mike Williams caught 7 passes for 121 yards and touchdown and tears his ACL. Gone for the season. So Joshua Palmer, we've been talking about him for a long time. It's time for him to step the fuck up. Palmer caught 4 passes for 66 yards and a touchdown. He lost a fumble against the Vikings. This is a nice situation to be the number 2 when you got Keenan Allen getting all of the attention. The defense bent but didn't break. They still allowed 475 yards to the Vikings. Yes, they held them to 414 and third down and 1 of 4 in the red zone, but I can't figure out why they're so bad. They got pressure, 4 sacks, 13 quarterback hits. Kenneth Murray made the game-sealing interception. And Derwin James left the game. Eric Kendricks and Eckler both were inactive last week, and we're going to find out tomorrow how close they are. I was surprised to see the Chargers as this big of a favorite. I mean, I look, they have a lot of nice pieces, but and I don't like the Raiders or want anything to do with the Raiders, but I still was a little surprised. I guess the line is saying that the chance of Jimmy G being available is slim. I don't know. Take it away for us here. Raiders, Chargers, Troy.
I thought Staley would be fired after this game, even though they pulled it out. But haven't heard nothing. I mean, this guy, like you said, consistently puts his team in position to lose. The offense and defense did enough to win this game. The coaching tried to sell the game like they always do. It's frustrating to watch as a guy who's a believer in this Chargers team, who has backed the Chargers in the futures markets. It's really tough to watch. Taking the ball out of Herbert's hands on the last possession of the game for the Chargers was incredible to me. They ran the ball 3 out of the last 4 plays. Despite not being able to run the ball all game, they decided to beat the drum to the run and got shut the fuck down. But just taking the ball out of Herbert's hands, I just couldn't believe what I was watching. But this is a bad matchup for the Raiders. They can't pressure the quarterback. The secondary is overrated, and they're rated as one of the worst teams in the NFL at 22nd in coverage. Herbert should have his way with this team, but how can you trust the Chargers with this big a number? It's really tough to do it. But you do got McDaniels on the other side. You got the Staley-McDaniel battle of the bums. I mean, it's like the Bears and the Broncos. You got McDaniel and Staley, 2 freaking clowns, man. It's hard to back either side from that standpoint. But Herbert, this guy's strong enough to make all the throws, ability to read defenses. His accuracy is just incredible to me. Whether it's a screen, a deep pass, over the whatever pattern you want to talk about, this guy puts it on the money consistently. I think Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. When I watch him, maybe I'm biased, but I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL outside of Tua. What Tua's doing is miraculous at this point. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But the Raiders, their offensive blocking rankings dropped off a cliff after this last game against the Steelers. So that speaks volumes to how good the Steelers are, pass rush and run, on the defensive line. Good run blocking, but no running game. 2.6 yards per carry, worse than the NFL. And that's just, to me, it tells me that and when I watch Josh Jacobs run, he looks like an uninspired running back. But would you want to play for this organization who doesn't value you, doesn't value your health? The coach, who's proven to be a clown, down 8, kicks a field goal under 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Yeah, we talked about that. This guy's a joke. Garoppolo, he's the kind of guy that'll fool you into thinking he's better than he is. But he makes bad decisions in the most critical parts of the game, and he continues to do it year after year. He had 10 poor passes, 3 interceptions last week, throwing it off his back foot. I would rather see Garoppolo win, in my opinion. I know that Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell, I don't think very highly of those two guys in the backups, but one guy's 37, one guy's a rookie. So either way, I think that makes me lean Chargers even more. This to me, I have Chargers teaser as my pick in this game. I haven't moved on it yet. I have no action on it. I think I have time to make a decision, but you got 2 incompetent coaches and you got one team that is better at every single position in the Chargers over the Raiders. So I'm going to be looking towards the teaser with the Chargers.
I get the teaser for sure. For sure.
But yeah, you get it. But think about it. I mean, if I'm saying that I need to tease the spread's too big to back the Chargers on the spread, it's like, well, then the Raiders is the right spot, right? But I'm going back and forth, Jimmy. How the war wages in your head.
I do, and then it makes me think that the total is what should be messed with here, but I'm going to need to count on I certainly not going to do anything until I know who's at quarterback for the Raiders. But I think that the over would then probably be in play. But this is no move at this point. I have Herbert for MVP. So, obviously we're one hit away from Tua taking a few games off. Not that I would cheer for that, but that exists. You could say it exists for Herbert too, but I mean, doesn't have the concussion issues. All right, let's roll on. Ron Crawford says too many points, division rivalry, and I get that. So let's roll on. Next up for us, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, New England Patriots at Dallas Cowboys, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. What a difference a week makes. I mean, the domination that we were seeing from the Cowboys, and then they lose Trayvon Diggs, and then they lose outright to Arizona. It was just absolutely wild. Let's start with the spread. It opened with the Patriots +7 at -120, and that's exactly where it is again, +7 at -119. There was a moment where Dallas at -7, started getting money. It stopped. It's sitting at 7 right now. But there are 6.5s out there, so but 7 at Pinnacle. Let's go over to the total in this one. We are sitting at 43. This opened up at 42.5, and the first move was towards the under. It got down to 41. It's climbed back up to 43. Let's get over to the cash flow then for this one. We have 77% of the tickets and 94% of the cash on the under, and yet it's bouncing around, which is not a spot that makes me want to hammer the under, even though for the X's and O's I could see it. 61% of the tickets, 87% of the cash on the New England Patriots. Let's move on to the breakdown here. Patriots coming off that 15-10 win at the Jets in the driving rain. Mac 15-29 for 201 yards. Shout out to our guy Swiss Horton back in action. Nice to see you, Swissy. Farrell Brown caught 2 passes for 71 yards and a touchdown. Our guy Swiss Horton, now a member, we be pubbing. We thank you for that, Swiss. Kendrick Bourne caught 4 for 46. Zeke had his best game in the Patriots uniform. 16 carries for 80 yards, 1 reception for 7 yards. I imagine that he earned trust after that performance. Ramondre Stevenson ran 19 times for 59 yards. Despite putting up 358 total yards, they didn't have one play in the red zone. The defense completely shut down the Jets, held them to 171 yards and 12 first downs. They held them to 2 of 14 on third down, and Matthew Judon was a beast, as always. 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and a safety. As a team, the Pats finished with 3 sacks and 7 quarterback hits, and they held the Jets to just 38 yards on the ground. Daniel Quale and Devon Godchaux left in the first half and didn't return. Quale with the elbow and Godchaux with the ankle. We'll find out more about that. I tried to get more information and couldn't get it. We'll find out more with the injury report tomorrow. Patriots 25-20 loss to Philadelphia and 24-17 loss to Miami is starting to look a lot better. It sure is. The problem here is I wanted the Cowboys to smash the Cardinals, and then I would have been on the Patriots. Instead, they're dealing with nonstop negativity in the media, same old story type stuff, and they're going to be an angry group here. And that's the reason why I'm not already on the Patriots. Cowboys coming off the shocking 28-16 loss at the Cardinals. They had outscored their opponents 70-10 to start the year. And, Trayvon Diggs done for the year, and suddenly the defense looks vulnerable. Dak, 25 of 40 for 249 yards, touchdown and a pick. Gallup, 6 receptions for 92. CeeDee Lamb, 4 for 53. Tony Pollard rushed 23 times for 122 yards. He's a beast. 416 yards of offense, but just 1 of 5 in the red zone. That's a Dak problem. That's always going to be a Dak problem. They allowed the Cardinals to score in all 6 possessions of the first half. I mean, that was shocking. And somehow we pushed the under. I mean, that's when you know you're having a good week. They finished with 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits, and they were all DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. That's it. No one else doing anything there from the pass rush variety. The defense allowed the Cardinals to go 5 of 10 on third down and 2 and 2 in the red zone. And, Tyler Biadazi and Zach Martin inactive, and they need them. They need those guys back, and we'll have a better idea tomorrow with the Wednesday injury report, whether they'll be in. Take it away for us here, Troy, Patriots, Cowboys.
Yeah, so this one isn't easy, but I already moved on the Patriots +7. I don't like fading good teams off a loss and a bad loss at that, but I think that the Cowboys are kind of like we expected, Jimmy, showing their true colors. As soon as the points stop pouring in from their defense and special teams, what happens? They lose to the Cardinals. I mean, this is a joke, and this makes me realize do not underestimate the fuckery of Coach McCarthy. And you look at the strength of opponents, the Cowboys, they got the Giants, the Jets, and the Cardinals. 3 opponents that are on the bottom end of the spectrum, in my opinion. The Patriots, they had the Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Jets. Eagles, Dolphins, obviously 2 of the top teams in the NFL at this point. Jets, great defense, not very good offensively. But people are selling their stock on Mac Jones, and I really don't get why. I mean, he played 3 really good teams. Obviously, he hasn't looked good, but that's a gauntlet, those 3 teams. The pass block, run block, all these metrics that I look at on the offensive side of things for the Patriots, I want to adjust or kind of overwrite because they have been against 3 of the best teams. And here they are again against the Cowboys, a great defense in the NFL. But 7 points just seems to be too much. With the Dak Prescott and McCarthy combination, McCarthy, this guy, I've been watching him for years. This guy loses games for his teams. Let's run the ball more. Fired Coach Kellen Moore, and he's having a hell of a time over there with the Chargers offense. But, yeah, they fire Kellen Moore. They say, let's run the ball more. Put the play calling in my hands, Coach McCarthy says. Well, they have the 2nd lowest air yards per completion, the 2nd lowest passing attempts in the NFL, middle of the pack at best at all offensive metrics. And they haven't performed very well in the red zone as well. And that was apparent when they were playing the Cardinals this past week. I trust Bill Belichick to keep this one close. The defense for the Patriots continues to rise in the ranks after getting past the Dolphins and the Eagles. Continue to rank up. The 2nd best third down defense in the NFL. And it's funny to me. I mean, I watch Bill Belichick. I've been watching him for years. I love this guy. He's so conservative on 1st and 2nd down defensively, and then on 3rd down they put the clamps on. It's just a beautiful thing. They defend the sticks so well. They're always really good on 3rd down defense, and that makes me want the Patriots +7. I'm already on it. I just think if the Patriots value their possessions, don't turn the ball over, they'll keep this game close. They'll keep it within a touchdown. And just looking at the Cowboys, how they were able to handle the run game from the Cardinals, Connor leads the NFL last week in rushing yards before contact. I mean, that's unacceptable for a good defense.
I imagine Zeke is going to be big here. It just means so much to him. But I have to say that when a line comes out like this and you see immediately like, well, of course it's Patriots. That makes me so nervous. It's a red flag. So I thought the same as you guys. How could you not? How could they? When this line comes out at 7, the books know they're going to get a ton of cash on the Patriots. And we had everybody in the chat saying Patriots, Patriots, Patriots. You have 61% of the tickets and 87% of the cash on the Patriots. So for those of you on the Patriots, you better see this line move towards you. You better see it move. There better be 6.5s down to 6s, because if this sits at 7,
That's why I bet it, Jimmy. I bet it with anticipation that it will drop. And when the spread drops from 7 below, under 7 to 6, 6.5, and if it drops below that,
oh yeah,
that's what I'm hoping to see, obviously. And then I'll probably be on the money line at that point.
Yeah, this always the spots. I used to always say last year I had 11 straight winning months, and I would say that my gut is a losing gambler, and my gut, first thing I see, my gut goes, gotta be on Patriots, and that just makes the first spot on the board last year in baseball. The first spot on the board I liked, I would just put a line through it immediately, and this one reminds me of that. So,
but how about the Cowboys? Second lowest air yards per completion from the explosive offense they were last year to that. I just, there's just so much red flags at this point with the Cowboys.
No, that's all legitimate, but this is going to be one of those spots where you're going to hear. It's possible to hear 9 out of every 10 people say, "Oh, Patriots can stay within 7," and that just makes me nervous. And not saying that you're on the wrong side, it just makes me very nervous.
Yeah,
here.
No, I get it.
Then you have the Cowboys after being embarrassed coming home. The more I talk about it, the more I think that the Cowboys' first half is probably what I should be looking at. Now, I don't want to fade Belichick or anything like that, and I don't want to get too caught up in, if everybody's on the one side, then I, would want the other. Birdie says the red flag is overreacting to a bad game. I don't think that you guys are wrong, and I don't mean to say that, but the very first thing that jumped out at me on this entire card was, how could the Patriots be a +7? And that just makes me nervous here. Rainbow the God says Dallas at home, more pressure for them and Dak. No, I don't see it that way. I see them being embarrassed. They were just embarrassed, and they're going to be locked in here. But I will cheer for you on the Patriots +7. I'm going to take more time with this total here on this one, but I can't. This is one of those spots where it just makes me so nervous. It just jumped off the page. How could the Patriots be 7 when we saw how bad the Cowboys looked without Trayvon Diggs last week? So
no, I assumed that the Cowboys would be the sharp side in this game, but I can't get past the McCarthy coaching. I can't get past that James Conner led the NFL in yards per carry without, before being touched by the defense. You can't get past that type of shit, man.
Oh, it's valid. It's definitely valid. It's going to be a really fun afternoon spot here. Troy on the Patriots +7. We're going to go over all of Troy's action and my action here at the end, because we're almost there. 3 games left. Next up for us, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, the aforementioned Arizona Cardinals, 1-2, 0-1 on the road at the San Francisco 49ers, 3-0, 1-0 home at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California, 72 Fahrenheit. 5 miles per hour, sunny, 5 miles per hour. Let's get into the line history here for this Niners spot. 49ers are 14-point favorites. Somebody, I forget who it was, asked me, like, are you going to start betting your Niners now? And I was like, how? How do you bet them? When they're, everybody thinks that, they're at the very top of the league. Now, obviously, the Eagles and Chiefs have something to say about that, but I don't know how to bet them here. And if that means that we get to the end of the year and I don't have a future on them or whatever, I mean, that's just, that's the situation. I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to bet them from week to week, because they're just like, I didn't fade them. I wasn't on the Giants, but this total opened up at 42. It's now up to 44. And here on one of these things, like, are the 49ers motivated because it's a divisional game? I mean, You have to answer those questions here. 69% of tickets, 98% of cash on the over. Then you have 42% of tickets, 56% cash on the San Francisco 49ers. Rainbow the God looking at McCaffrey rushing props, all that. I mean, Shanny did take a lot of heat for not using Elijah Mitchell 2 weeks ago. And then he used them last week, and Elijah Mitchell ran for 42 yards. But let's start with the Cardinals. They snapped their 6-game home losing streak dating back to last season and procured Joshua Dobbs his first career win as a starting quarterback in that 28-16 upset of the Cowboys at home. And also Jonathan Gannon gets his first win, as Arizona's coach. The Cardinals have led at halftime in all 3 games this year. That's a wild stat. Who would have thought that, looking at the first 3 games of their season? I mean, never in my wildest dreams would have thought that. But Dobbs was very clean and efficient. 17-21 for 189 yards and a touchdown. He also ran 6 times for 55 yards, didn't throw a pick. Looking at Dobbs' play, I mean, he's better than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL right now, which is just another shocking statement after watching him with Tennessee last year. 2023 third-round pick out of Stanford, Michael Wilson. He's a pretty electric dude. Caught 2 passes for 86 yards. Marquise Brown caught 5 for 61 and touchdown. And James Conner, it looks better than I've ever seen him look. He just looks like he's got a chip on his shoulder. Ran 14 times for 98 yards, touchdown, caught 2 for 18. The Cardinals defense bent but didn't break. They allowed 416 total yards. Cowboys went 9 of 16 on third down. But the Cards tightened up when it counted, and they held the Cowboys to 1-5 in the red zone. Cardinals got 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. That's it. Kaiser White had a pick. Zaven Collins has an eye injury, and Chris Barnes has a hand injury, defensive lineman and linebacker, respectively. We need to know what's going on for them if you're interested in backing the Cardinals. 49ers come in off extra rest after an easy 30-12 victory at home over the Giants in last week's Thursday nighter. Amazingly, it's just their third 3-0 start in the last 25 years. It's a somewhat tricky spot here. Next week, Sunday night, Cowboys 49ers. Good God, is that going to be a giant football game? And against the Giants, it was just a cakewalk. They outgained the Giants 441-150, 26 first downs to 10. Brock Purdy make everything look easy. And that one, 25-37 for 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then I was saying this earlier, the Giants blitzed Purdy on 33 of his 39 dropbacks, and it didn't phase him at all. Ayuk out with a shoulder injury. He's back this week. Deebo Samuel with Ayuk out erupted for 6 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. Kittle caught 70 for 90. Shanny said if they had a regular Sunday night game that Ayuk could have played. It was just the 4 days that was the reason why I didn't play. CMC ran 18 times for 85 yards, touchdown, caught 5 for 34. And as good as they looked offensively, they do have some red zone issues, similar to the Eagles. I don't know if maybe the intensity is not quite there in these kind of blowout spots, but 2 of 5 in the red zone. And their defense just destroyed the Giants. 3 of 12 on third down. The Giants put up 29 yards on the ground. The defense sacked Daniel Jones twice, hit him 6 times. Hufanga had a pick. They dominated time of possession, 39-10 to 20-50. And Ambry Thomas was inactive, and he is also expected to be back here. Cornerback Ambry Thomas expected to be back. Take it away for us here. Is there any angle? Is a 14-point divisional favorite does not sound appealing at all. What do you think here?
Can they do it again, man? Anyone got tickets on the Cardinals to win this division? I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat that got the Cardinals to win this division, man. Come on, man. They look legit. I really don't have an interest in this massive spread. I will say the 49ers offense has been lackluster just because of their offensive line, specifically that right side that I called out last week. They got crushed once again. The right guard, right tackle, not looking very good. This 49ers offense. And I think that's why I thought Brock Purdy looked a little bit disrupted in his usual process that he has as a quarterback. He looks susceptible to me for the first time in a long time. 49ers defense, what's there to be said? They're elite. I think Fred Warner is on some drugs that I wish I had. But this Cardinals team, I mean, they continue to get the job done. ATS, I just think that this is time to 49ers are about to smack them down. This 14.5 spread after winning outright against Dallas at home. Now they're catching 14.5, 14, whatever it is at this point. It's 49ers in this game or nothing for me.
Yeah, it's nothing for me. I don't see this as being bettable personally in a division game here.
Yeah.
Birdie looking at 49ers first half, and LJ looking at Kittle's receiving yards anytime touchdown, prayed over 1.5 field goals. It's just Birdie says 49ers may win this game by 40 points. None of this is appealing to me. Nor is the total at this point here at 44, climbing up from 42. I don't find anything appealing here at all. And I apologize, but I'm going to have a ton of action this week, so it doesn't bother me. So let's just move on. Here is our Sunday nighter. And I know that the move has already taken place here with the total, but I still think I can get under it. I would like to bet the under here. Now, Pinnacle opened this up on Sunday night, 8:14 p.m. at 43. That's an important number. I'd much rather have that than the 42. I do want to talk this out right now. The Jets are 10-point dogs. The side does not appeal to me. We talked about motivation, and the Chiefs had all the motivation against the Bears because their offense had looked so bad, and they did exactly what we expected them to do. Here, it's a much different situation. Ron Crawford looking at Chiefs first half. I mean, that cashed very easily for me last week. And, it doesn't appeal to me here. Not that I'd be on the other side. What I would need here is the Jets defense to step up. The Chiefs defense looks very good. I need the Jets defense to step up, and I want the Chiefs to slow this game down and get out of Dodge healthy. So let's break it down here. We talked about the movement on the side and the total, but let's talk about the cash flow. At this point, 86% of the tickets, 84% of the cash is on the Chiefs. 64% of the tickets and 99% of the cash is on the under. 99% of the cash is on the under. I mean, I don't like that. A lot of money on the under, but I get it as long as the Jets step up defensively. And if that's too much of a concern with the Chiefs games when they're ahead, now we didn't see it against the Bears until the fourth quarter when Gabbert came in, but the Chiefs were still showing off and making sure that they were right offensively. And that was our whole cap. Chiefs coming off the first dominant performance of the season, beat up the Sad Sack Bears 41-10. They were up 41-0 when they took out the starters. Mahomes 24-33 for 272 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran 3 for 28. Kelsey caught 7 for 69 yards and a touchdown. Rashee Rice caught 5 for 59. 10 receivers caught passes. That's when you know that Mahomes is on. Pacheco ran 15 times for 62 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 2 for 16. Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran 15 times for 55 yards and a touchdown. They got whatever they wanted. They put up 456 yards of offense. They were 10 of 14 on third down, 5 of 5 in the red zone. And you can tell when they're motivated. That's when the red zone is just electric. Now you can also say that the Bears defense is atrocious and they were dealing with extra injuries in their secondary, and that's all valid. But the Chiefs completely shut down Fields, and the Bears held the Bears to 203 total yards, 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. Mike Edwards had an interception. And it was just a perfect spot for a big favorite, the perfect spot last week. The Jets come in off a 15-10 loss to the Patriots at home in heavy rain. Wilson 18 of 36 for 157 yards for the Jets. I don't have compassion for him. I don't feel sorry for him. I don't. He doesn't deserve to be in the situation he's in, and so I hope he gets smashed into the ground and fucking loses. I don't care. I have no compassion for him. 2 of 14 on third down, 1 of 10 on third down against Dallas, and then 2 of 14 against the Patriots. Garrett Wilson, maybe I have compassion for him. I wish he had a quarterback. Led receivers with 5 catches, 48 yards. Lazard 3 for 39. Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall were completely shut down by the Patriots. That's impressive that the Patriots can just pick what they want to shut down and completely shut it down. I mean, that's Belichick at his finest. Cook and Hall combined for 36 yards on 20 carries. The Jets had 171 total yards, 2 of 14 on third down, as I said. The pass rush didn't deliver a single sack. Quinnen Williams had 3 quarterback hits. The rest of the team had 2. Dwayne Brown's now on IR, so they moved Mekhi Becton from right tackle to the left side. The starting right guard, Elijah Vera Tucker, moves to right tackle. Tippmann makes his first NFL start at right guard. Laken Tomlinson and Connor McGovern stayed in their usual spots, but that's a lot of movement, for the offensive line. I think this under is nice, but I need the Jets defense to stay involved for 4 quarters. That's the question. And I think they can. And I understand why 99% of the cash is on the under. And I don't think that'll stay that way. Of course, the public's going to come in and bet their overs. Take it away for us here, Troy. The Sunday nighter, we're going to be live right here. The primetime under in effect. Everybody's making money off of it. Why aren't you? Not you personally, Troy, but just anyone watching. I mean, they're just cashing. Now, I don't need the first half full game, these kinds of things, especially with the Chiefs, because I like them when they get a big lead. Take it away for us here, Troy. Chiefs, Jets.
Everything that I've capped in this game really depends on one variable, and it's not the offensive line or defensive line. There's one very important variable in this game, and that's, do we know if Taylor Swift is going to be at this game or not? Jimmy, did you look that up? No.
I was trying to get through the whole breakdown without saying her name. That's what I was going to try to do, man.
Oh, my God. The fuckery on that is just ridiculous. But, yeah, I really had no interest in this side. This one's very simple for me. I'm going to keep it very easy, very swift in this cap. Primetime unders. Home team's a dog. Take the under.
DG says Jets events will show up Sunday Night Football in their building against defending champs. They'll show up. That's all I need. If they show up.
I'm going right now to get it, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm going to get it right after the show. All right. I'm no side for me. I'm going to be on the under, and I'm not going to take first half full game. Just going to take the full game. Sky Dragon says still at this point he leans over. I get it. I just need the Jets to step up because I love what the Chiefs defense is doing. Brady says Chiefs defense being dominant, like the under as well, but not betting it. Jets can't stop the run. Not sure if the Chiefs get up early here, if the spot that the Jets D doesn't cave. You know, it was funny in that game against the Bears. Usually I would live bet the under when the Chiefs get that far ahead, but it was still a get right spot, not on the road. Let's get out of here healthy. So I will definitely be prepared to live bet the under here in this one. Okay, let's roll on. That's the Sunday nighter. Let's move on to the Monday nighter. This is the final spot on the Week 4 card. Thank you for rolling with us here at Pub Sports Radio. Bankroll Blitz, coming off a huge week for Troy and I. 18-8 or 19-8. What was it again? 18-8. 18-8 plus 9.31 units. Let's break down this final spot on the board. And this is a fun one. This will be a fun Monday nighter. A lot of moving parts to it, so let's break it down. We'll start with the line history here for the Monday nighter. We're sitting here with the Giants as 1-point favorites at Pinnacle. They opened up at +2. They're now -1. It's a big move from dog to favorite. Probably get a better idea of it if we move over to the money line. So let's do that right now. On the money line, the Giants are sitting at -116, and they opened up at +117. So that's a legit 33-cent move. Let's get over to the total in this one, sitting at 46.5 at Pinnacle. A lot of other books have moved it to 47. This opened up at 45. So we have a move towards the over. Monday Night Football. Mally Mal looking at the over. Let's break it down. Let's take a look at the cash flow before we go through the X's and O's and what happened last week. On the money line, 56% of the tickets, 66% of the cash is on the Seahawks, and the line's gone against them. On the spread, 68% of the tickets and 60% of the cash is on the Seahawks. On the spread, it's 65% of the tickets and just 24% of the cash on the Seahawks. Wow. You can imagine that those bets came in when the Giants were plus money. For the total, it's 68 and 60 on the over. So let's roll. A lot of jokes about the length of the show. Buys start next week, so this will be our last 3-hour show for until week 16? Week 16 or 17? Seahawks, Giants, MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey, 68 Fahrenheit, clear, 5 miles per hour. Seahawks coming off a 37-27 victory at home over the Panthers. Geno Smith was strong, 23 of 36, 296 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. DK Metcalf caught 6 for 112. Kenneth Walker ran 18 times for 97 yards, 2 touchdowns, caught 3 passes for 59 yards. Charbonnet, 9 carries for 46 yards. Seahawks, 146 yards on the ground. But there were problems. The offense was just 3 of 13 on third down, just 3 of 6 in the red zone. And Seattle's, fans were going bananas. And I had said, we'd gone over the numbers, and Seattle wasn't covering at home and all that for 5 years. But good God, 8 false start penalties on Andy Dalton. It was wild. So we're still waiting for Jamal Adams. We're still waiting for Jamal Adams to return. And the secondary got torched by Andy Dalton, 361 yards. The pass rush finished with 3 sacks and 11 quarterback hits, but they allowed the Panthers to go 10 of 19 on third down, 2 of 2 in the red zone. Myers, who was 3 of 6 on field goals coming in, 43, 35, 33, 37, 39. He looked really good. They lose cornerback Trey Brown to a concussion early in the second quarter. Mike Jackson took over at right corner, and he played well. The Seahawks believe they have a ton of depth in the secondary. Trey's in concussion protocol. Edge rusher Darrell Taylor suffered a leg injury, and Carroll says that all that happened was he got kicked in the shin. It aggravated an old injury, forced him to the sidelines, but he will be back. If he's not back, rookie Derek Hall will come in. Defensive end Draymond Jones left in the second half with a hip injury. Supposedly, it was Pete Carroll said it was his hip tightened up. Now, this is also an older injury being aggravated for Draymond Jones, so got to keep an eye on that. That was a big part of the offseason. And then Jamal Adams will play Monday night. Pete Carroll says he will definitely play Monday night. So, we haven't seen him since the first quarter of 2022. The first quarter of the first game. That's what I mean, not the first quarter of the season. Giants coming off extra rest after that ugly 30-12 loss at San Francisco last Thursday. The offense was pitiful. 150 total yards. Daniel Dimes, 22 of 32, 137 yards, 1 pick. Slayton led receivers with 3 catches for 32 yards. And no Saquon, right? So they were held to 29 yards rushing on 11 carries. And Barkley's day-to-day, there's hope he's going to be in the lineup. And if you ask Daboll, he's expecting him to be in the lineup. The offensive line looked terrible. Watching Andrew Thomas on the sidelines is the best thing if you're betting against the Giants. You want to see him standing on the sidelines. Ben Bredesen also, not in the lineup. So this is the situation. Bredesen is going to clear concussion protocol on Thursday or Friday, and he will be good to go. Daboll has said that Bredesen will be good to go. They're starting left guard. And then all they say about Andrew Thomas and his hamstring is that he is inching closer to a return. So, they need Thomas and Bredesen to protect Daniel Dimes. The blind side is awful when they're not out there. We talked about the defense blitzing Purdy, 33 of his 39 dropbacks. They got 2 sacks and 6 quarterback hits, and the 49ers put up 441 yards of offense and 9 of 16 on third down. The Giants have been so bad in the first half. They were down 17-6 to the Niners. They were down 26-0 to Dallas, and they were down 20-0 to Arizona. They did lose Deontay Banks, cornerback, and their defensive lineman DJ Davidson, arm and elbow injuries. We're not sure the extent of it, and Daboll didn't even bring it up. It was all about Bredesen and Andrew Thomas, everything, and Saquon. That was the whole entire thing was about them, and those guys didn't even come up in the conversation. Here we go. Our Monday nighter. This game is 6 days away. We'll be right here live on Pub Sports Radio. Take it away, Troy. Seahawks, Giants.
I got a lot of work to do on this game. As I said earlier, I watched every game in the NFL this past week except for one game, and that's Panthers-Seahawks. But what I do see from the Seahawks is that they're a lot better than I thought. This offensive line has held up despite the issues that they've had with the injuries. They continue to climb up the rankings even after the injuries, but they're still allowing pressure on 30% of the attempts, but they're not really turning into sacks on Geno Smith. So this is definitely one game I'm going to have to go back and watch on the Seahawks. But these two teams were high on my fade list. Vikings, Giants, Seahawks. These teams are teams you want to fade after watching what they did last year. The Giants, they had the Cowboys, the Cardinals, and the 49ers, and maybe that Cardinals was a little bit stronger than I thought. Their strength of schedule is much stronger than the Seahawks at this point, and I think that if I was going to take a side in this game without digging too deep, because this is definitely the most bare bones my note list is with this Seahawks team, but I'm looking towards backing the Giants. I just think it's a pick 'em for a reason.
Yeah, Jamal Adams returning. I want to bet the Giants. But I am a little concerned. You bet the Giants 6 days before the game. Do you get Saquon? Do you have Thomas and Bredesen in the lineup? And then you're going to go up against a Seahawks defense that's going to be as pumped up as you could imagine. I know they're pretty pumped up in front of their home crowd. Bring them to New York City and have Jamal Adams back in the lineup. So I think that I end up sitting with this a little more or for a little longer and getting the injury information. But right now, I agree with the move towards the Giants. I agree with your breakdown of them having a tougher schedule. I think that this will be a completely different look on extra rest. In fact, the more I talk about it, the more I want it.
Yeah.
What will happen when Saquon's announced in, the line gets even, moved further into the direction of the New York Giants? I mean, the easier thing with a $200 unit size is that I can move on them now, and then if they don't have Saquon, I can figure things out live, while we're moving. But I feel like I move on them. I'm very close to moving on the Giants. I love the extra rest. I love Daboll. I like the Seahawks, feeling good about themselves against a weak Panther squad where their defense looked awful. And I think Lockett's banged up. We know Metcalf is banged. His ribs are still an issue. So
the Panthers were 10-19 on third down.
Yeah.
The Seahawks, worst third down defense in the NFL, right there second worst next to the Bears. Jeez, it's time for the Giants to get right.
Yeah, I think so.
But like you said, I mean, we can't really sit on this one. I'm going to watch this game tonight.
I think that I think I move on the Giants tonight. I think I get them, lock them in on the money line at a low number, because we all know Jamal Adams is in. I mean, that's baked into the line. What we aren't sure of is, will Saquon be there? Will Andrew Thomas be there? Because we know that Bredesen's in, so the offensive line's already going to be stronger. So you have extra rest. You have a team high on the, with the Seahawks, and then a team so low on the Giants that must win now. Yeah, I'm going to move on the Giants tonight. I've talked myself into it. Al Cervix says, give Jimmy a bag of elk jerky and a handle of vodka every 12 hours. He stays at the desk. God, I would love that. I would love that. Sky Dragon says, all love now. It's nap time. Giants are going to be on my card, and I'm going to bet them this evening. JTL says, burning the midnight oil. Hey, Jimmy, you have a morning show coming up. You're damn right. I have a morning show coming up, and our special guest tomorrow is the legend, the Big Ragu. So we got college football that we'll be breaking down as well as MLB. Let's review all action here. I'm interested in the first half under in Detroit, Green Bay. I'm interested in it. I don't know if I get to the window on it. Oh, DX Filer up 22.5 units in posted plays. Good God. DX crushing it. My goodness, that's great. So I'm interested in that. Jump in when you've got action here. So
I moved on the Lions -1.5.
Okay, so Troy has moved on the Lions. And of course, if you follow Troy Torrence 11 on X, you'll know all this stuff. But Troy's on the Lions -1.5. Okay, so then in England, I'm off at this point.
I'm going to be on. I haven't moved yet, but the props haven't opened yet. I'm going to be on my guy Calvin Ridley in the revenge spot.
Oh yes, I thought I wrote that down somewhere, but I don't see it. Okay, Calvin Ridley, Rebenga. Okay, and then I'm already on the Bills -2.5. I'm going to move on the first half under. Probably bet that tonight. Anything?
I am looking towards the first half under as well. I haven't moved yet. I will post about it.
I need to study more about the over in Broncos Bears, but I have interest in it. I'm not going to move on tonight, but I'm interested. Anything for you?
Jesus, I think the Bears might make my card, unfortunately. But no, scratch that. Don't even write anything down, Jimmy. I got nothing in that.
I'm moving on the under tonight in Ravens Browns. Troy's on the Browns money line and the -2.5. Then I'm moving tonight on the Bengals Titans under. Anything for you?
Titans Bengals under 41. I bet it already. Under 41, you can get it +100 at Bovada.
All right. Then Colts and the under in Rams Colts. Now the under, it scares me with the line moving up, so I'm not going to bet it tonight, but I'm going to move on the Colts tonight.
I haven't moved yet, but the Colts are definitely on the short list for me.
The Bucks and the under, I move on it tonight.
I'm on the Bucks +3.
Troy's on the Bucks. All right. Then Commanders, Eagles, nothing for me.
Nothing at this point. Looking for a teaser.
Moving on the over in Vikings Panthers tonight. Anything for you?
Nothing for me in that game.
Steelers, Texans, I'm off. You?
I'm off.
Raiders, Chargers, I'm interested in the over, but don't plan on moving it tonight. Want to know who's going to be a quarterback for the Raiders.
God, how square do I sound? Is it going to be an Eagles Chargers teaser? I'm interested in a teaser leg with the Chargers, but that's it. I will not be taking the spread.
Troy's moved on the Patriots +7. I'm off of that spot. But I will cheer it on. I have some interest in the Cowboys first half. Cardinals, I should write that down. I'm not moving on that tonight, but let me just know that Cowboys first half. All right, then Cardinals, Niners, I'm off. Anything for you?
No, I'm off.
I'm going to move on the under in Chiefs, Jets.
I moved on it already, 42.5.
Then I'm going to move on the Giants tonight.
I will likely move on the Giants. I'm going to rewatch that game from a couple different angles, but I'll probably be on the Giants with you.
Thank you, everybody in the chat. We have absolutely nothing without you. It's your support that lets us go for as long as we do, and all of that gives us the opportunity to have this show. So we thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts. Charlie Chips, Ron Crawford, Harold Williams, Al Cervic, Darren Turner. What a group, man. Rance, DX Filer, Sky Dragon, Birdie, JT Eel. Thank you guys. Slatsy, Control Your Vessel. Thank you guys for your support. Ronnie Crawford, LJ from H-Town. Truly, we have nothing without you guys. Mally Mal, Vincent Hawkins.
Just a bunch of dogs in the chat, man.
Yeah, man.
I mean, and they make a difference. They really do. I mean, just seeing what people in there, Birdie, Cervic, Sky Dragon, DX Filer, Slatsy, Ron Crawford. These guys are dogs.
Yeah, man. And they inspire us. They make me want to work my fucking ass off. It's a great group, man.
And then here comes Ron Crawford, spreadsheet play of the day on Baltimore. Last time I was on the Browns and he had the spreadsheet play of the day on the other side. God, what a fucking terrible night that was. God
Yeah.
damn. It's my turn, Ron. All right. Come on.
It is just an honor to work with you, Troy. Everybody, I just the feedback that you're getting is so excellent. So thank you so much for also being so cool about these marathon shows. Buys start next week, so this will be the last 3-hour show for 2 months at least.
Thank God.
2 months. Lil Domo, all you guys, thank you. My thank you to Vic. We have Vic producing the show. Vic, great job. Thank you for all the hard work that you put in to make the show look so good. So thank you, Vic. And then Troy, my man, any last words before we put a bow on this?
Outside of follow me on Twitter, I'll be posting, market environment information, as much information as I could put out. I'll be putting it on Twitter, all my official picks. And man, thank you for showing up. Thank you for giving me this platform, Jimmy. I can't wait to get to this money this weekend. Let's go out there, get that fucking cash. Thank you guys for watching. We crushed week 3. We need to crush week 4. Thank you for being a part of this. Let's go out there and get that fucking cash. Leche. Alos bookmakers. Milk that shit.